Government agencies are funded by the government.
That is not true. That is not true. And you know what? I think the whole juxtapose of this entire
20 Trump supporters take on one progressive, featuring Sam Seder, surrounded by Jubilee. So I'm a few days late to the party on this one. I've not watched any of this, but some clips have been floating around my Twitter. There are some recurring faces that I keep seeing pop up, and the reactions from the progressives and leftists that I follow are pretty interesting, I'll say that. So I'm very curious to check this one out. I think we're going to just jump right in. I will say I love Sam Seder. Sam Seder to me is a very, very good person. We align politically on almost everything. I don't watch a ton of the Majority Report, mostly because, believe it or not, I am a very busy person and there's only so much political stuff that I can ingest in a given day. So I have some other political content creators that I follow more closely, but I really love and respect Sam Seder, the Majority Report, and all of the work they're doing. Big shout outs to them. So I guess what I'm ultimately curious about here is seeing if Sam Seder can change anyone's mind here. Now, we all know with debate, it is just impossible to change someone's mind. Like in a structured debate like this. It just doesn't happen. Sam's goal here really should be to try and convince the viewers watching, even the conservative viewers watching, that these people's beliefs, the things they are saying, don't hold up to any amount of scrutiny. But I really would love it if at least one of them could go, okay, maybe I was wrong about this. Or at the very least, okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I don't know much about this. Thanks for bringing that up, Sam. I will go review that, on my own. I don't know. I'm asking a lot. With conservatives, admitting you don't know something is a sign of extreme weakness. And if they were to go, I'm going to go do my own research on this, it'll be with just terrible, untrustworthy sources. Okay, I said I was going to jump right in, but I guess I'm doing one of my typical long intros. Look, what I'm seeing as the biggest fucking problem in discourse today is one single thing. To me, it appears as though people are not, especially conservatives. Obviously, there's issues with liberals and the left as well to some degree, to a lesser degree, a much lesser degree. But I'm talking about conservatives here. There is an issue with them not trusting trustworthy sources and trusting untrustworthy sources. Over the past couple of decades, the right-wing media machine has done an excellent job at convincing conservatives and a lot of people who are just on the bubble that these, like I said, credible sources of information are actually woke and gay and are not credible. One easy example would be the scientific consensus on anthropogenic climate change. Long story short, there is robust, broad, international consensus among virtually every scientist, even remotely related to climate-related topics, that, the science behind the greenhouse effect is real. We know what CO2 does. But the right-wing media machine has convinced their viewers, these conservative voters, that people like climate scientists are all paid off by, anti-fossil fuel special interests, and they're spreading lies about the reality of climate change in order to make a profit. All of these scientists and academics all around the world are all doing this. It's this vast, unthinkable conspiracy, and it's not just, the science appears to point to, the greenhouse effect having a major effect on Earth's climate. So that's the issue with the fucking world today. Far too many people are incapable of doing good research. The vast majority of them are totally willing to trust untrustworthy sources, and they are convinced that trustworthy sources are fake and gay. I don't know how to solve this problem. This bad faith effort to discredit credible sources of information is a horrific thing that has occurred over the last few decades, in my opinion. Obviously, right-wing media is incredibly complicit in this, but I think things like failures to invest in education, failures to invest in social programs, there's a lot of things that can add up to creating the population that we have today. People who are too skeptical when it comes to like actual credible sources of information and not nearly skeptical enough to these uncredible sources of information. Anyway, I'm sure we're going to talk about all this and more. I think I have the same jacket or a very similar jacket to Sam Seder here. All right, Uncle Sam, let's get it.
Like, what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Don't you think that's better for Americans in general?
To be xenophobic,
Yes.
nationalism is better.
We should have a coherent culture. Everyone should be a part of the same culture.
Which, do you get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture.
I mean, look, I got to be honest with you. Like, you and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. Hi, I'm Sam Seder, host of the.
Where does jacket go? He gets a little chilly. Sam, he's getting old. He got a little chilly, so he had to put his little jacket on. I'm already getting hot, so I'm going to take this off.
The Majority Report, and today I am surrounded by 20 conservatives. My first claim is Trump's attack on DEI hides his real goal, which is to give corporations more power.
Yes. Yes. To everyone watching this video. Yes. This is it, dude. This is everything I believe in this one sentence, okay? I talk about this all the time. Every progressive or leftist commentator will talk about this all the time. It is so incredibly obvious that this culture war that the right-wing media machine and right-wing politicians are spooling up is a distraction from who is actually fucking up your life. The ultra-wealthy, the billionaire class. They are the ones standing in the way of all of us having a better life. Not DEI, not immigrants, not trans people. All of Trump's policies that he's advocating for in his current second term, that he did in his first term, all of them were either one, a distraction, like building the wall and all that dumb shit, or two, things that would directly benefit corporations, the already ultra wealthy. They're quieter about it now, but this is the trickle-down economics, which every study will tell you that these past 50, now 55 years of tax cuts and benefits, regulatory cuts for the rich have failed to trickle down. Things like canceling local meal funding for schools and food banks does not help the working class. These types of tax cuts and deregulatory measures overwhelmingly help the already ultra-wealthy. That is their goal. That is Trump's goal. That is every Republican's goal. That is Elon's goal. They do not care about the working class. If you think a billionaire has working class interests in mind, you need a brain transplant. No, man. When you give the ultra-rich tax cuts, they pocket it for themselves. All these deregulatory measures do is allow corporations to pocket more profit at the expense of working class people, whether it's our health, whether it's our pay. They are not doing anything that would actually help the working class. And don't get me wrong, the Democrats are not much better in this regard either. They also serve the interests of capital more so than the interests of working class people. Don't take my criticisms of the Republicans as an endorsement of the Democrats. There are some good Democrats who advocate for policies that would actually help working class people, but they are very, very few and far between. These 5.5 decades of neoliberal policies have only helped the rich. Their share of the wealth has gotten bigger. Our share of the wealth has gotten smaller. Socialism didn't do that. The reason you can't afford healthcare is not because we spend a tiny amount of our money on school lunches for children. No, it's because we are witnessing a decades-long project to siphon wealth from working class people to the rich. This is certainly a major issue with Republicans, but the Democrats are certainly complicit in this as well. So yes, Sam's claim here is 100% accurate. This is what they're doing. They do all this dumb culture war shit like attack DEI, sign legislation to harm the tiny amount of trans people we have, build a fucking giant border wall when most, illegal immigration happens through legal channels. It's all dumb shit distractions from, again, this decades-long project to siphon money from working class people to the already ultra wealthy. I highly, highly recommend everyone read this study, Identifying the Policy Levers Generating Wage Suppression and Wage Inequality. This is a fantastic study that demonstrates where all of our money is fucking going and how it's getting there. It demonstrates one of the major levers that the ultra wealthy have to completely fuck working class people over. So many studies have been done. I mean, the enemy is the ultra rich. It's not the immigrant. It's not the trans person. It's not DEI. God. And it's just like the answer to this is a 10 quadrillion word study that I'm asking you guys to, I'm begging you to read. This incredibly detailed, well-researched, there's charts, there's graphs, there's all sorts of shit. I'm asking you to read this versus listen to your favorite conservative political commentator tell you why trans people are the source of all of your problems. They can just go on their podcasts, on their shows, and just complain about immigrants, complain about brown people, complain about trans people all day until the cows come home. And I have to go like, well, guys, here's this incredible study. It's really, really long. It's really, really detailed, but you really, really should read it, which I have read this, by the way. I'm editing a video where I read this all the way through on camera to try and get people to understand this. I just don't know what to do anymore. Here, so you can see that I'm not bullshitting. I do have this video coming out where I read this exact study. One of the trends that went unrecognized and unexamined in the mainstream labor economic literature for decades was the remarkable growth for those in the upper 1% and the even faster growth among those in the top 0.1% of wage earners. Wow. This guy seems really interesting. I can't wait to watch this video of him reading this extensive long study. Anyway, I don't know when that's going to come out. It'll be a while. But in the meantime, please check this out on your own. It's in the description. But it is not the only study that has come out demonstrating that, again, the reason you're not making as much money as you should be, the reason you don't have health care, it's not immigrants, it's not DEI, it's not trans people, it's not brown people. It's the ultra fucking wealthy, man. It's the capital owners. It's this shitty, fucked up system. And all of this dumb shit that Republicans are trying to convince you is the actual problem is a distraction. But again, that's more complicated. It's not as fun. It's not as easy. Immigrants who don't speak our language, trans people who are kind of different and kind of weird are a much easier enemy than the ultra rich. This shit depresses me to no end, man. Okay, let's finally start watching the fucking video. So to debate Sam's claim, the conservatives must enter the circle. So they're going to like have to fight over one another to get to this chair first.
All right.
I mean, like some people have a clear advantage, right? Like this person and this person are much closer to the chair than any of these people.
Oops. Sorry, Sam. No worries.
All right.
So I will say this is one of the guys I've been seeing kind of float around on Twitter that like the leftists and progressives are saying, you know, was kind of silly. So let's see.
I think I have a slight issue with the back end of the premise. I guess Trump's attacks on DEI being a real goal to, you know, give corporations more power. I'd rather center the conversation around the democratic, you know, especially as conservatives, the issues that people have with DEI and why I believe Trump would, you know, want to support the issues that, you know, people are voting for him for.
I mean, I'm talking about his whole attack on DEI. It's actually DEIA, right? You know that, in government agencies. The A being for accessibility.
Right. Yeah, and I think the attack on DEI isn't an attack on people's protections. It's on the other end of the spectrum, right? Wanting to end DEI doesn't want to end protections for someone being disabled, someone being, inaccessible to get into a job. It rather wants to de-incentivize corporations to push them to hire these people on unfair bases, right?
But DEIA is not about quotas or anything like that. It is about protections for people within these organizations, or to make sure that you have different communities that have the opportunity to apply to these things.
Right.
So it can mean, within government agencies, it means things like, let's pay interns so that not only wealthy people can have their kids do internships in these agencies.
Right.
Or let's put out notices around different parts of town,
Sam is
metaphorically speaking, so that people know this job
Right.
exists.
This is where it begins, but this isn't the ultimate goal that conservatives have an issue with. Conservatives don't have an issue with trying to spread job applications to poorer communities.
Well,
so
then
everyone
why
gets
rescind DEIA requirements in government agencies?
Because the problem with DEIA is there may not be like perceived actual number quotas, but that's what it devolves into, and especially with
Do
corporations,
you have
it
the
devolves.
evidence of that?
I mean, sure, we can look at corporations that are
Okay. I don't want to just pause for me to fact check every single thing anyone's saying. I want Sam to have his space. But let's talk a little bit about DEI. So as far as I understand it, like most research that has been done on these sorts of DEI initiatives have found that companies who implement these sort of diversity, equity, and inclusion policies end up doing better. So this is like from even the most like capitalist perspective, okay? The business case for diversity and executive teams remains strong. So super capitalist, okay? But yeah, generally speaking, I have not been able to find any significant evidence that these sorts of programs, hurt companies or anything. Yes, I'll be the first to say that sometimes these things can be performative. I don't particularly like that aspect of these sorts of things. And I could talk endlessly about why I just generally think that having more diversity, I think equity is a good thing, and being inclusive, these are just good things to do. Even if you want to look at it just from like a capitalist perspective, it does appear as though doing these sorts of programs results in better outcomes for companies. Here's a Forbes article from about a month ago. Companies that value DEIA perform better. As some companies pull back from their diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility programs, others are discovering organizations that stick with DEIA aren't just doing what's right, they're making better business decisions and consistently show better financial results than those without them. So that's basically what I just said. Like, yes, I think there is a moral imperative to doing these sorts of things in general, doing them right, but it just appears as though businesses do better with a more diverse workforce. Businesses that make sure that, inclusion, equity, and accessibility just seem to do better. Misconceptions often cloud the conversation about diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. At its core, DEIA isn't about quotas or preferential treatment. It's about creating workplaces where everyone can contribute their best work. Absolutely. These practices have their roots in the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which first banned employment discrimination based on race, color, sex, religion, and other criteria. Each component of DEIA serves a specific purpose. Diversity embraces the unique characteristics that make each employee valuable to an organization. This goes beyond race and gender to include different backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives that can drive innovation and better decision-making. Equity focuses on creating fair access to opportunities. I'm going to zoom in. This means identifying and removing barriers that might hold back certain groups, such as pay gaps, flexible work hours for parents, or ensuring everyone has access to career advancement. It's about leveling the playing field so that talent, not background, determines success. Abso-fucking-lutely. Like, this is literally the opposite of what conservatives complaining about. Like, they think that DEI says we need to value someone's skin color over their abilities when that's just not what it's fucking about. This is another place where the left's messaging just fucking sucks. Not that this should be a left-right issue, but it's unfortunately is. By calling these sorts of things DEI, like liberal coded language, woke coded language, things like Black Lives Matter. We could talk on and on and on about why these sorts of like slogans the left has, progressives have, liberals have, make the actual components of what they are a little bit inaccessible, which is unfortunate because when you actually dig into what these things are, what these things accomplish, you know, they seem to look pretty good. This is unrelated, but this is a study I've been meaning to talk about. Republicans favored Kamala Harris's policies in blind polling. 2 blind polls unveiled overwhelming support for the Democrats' policy platform. I do talk about this all the time to some degree. Like, when you strip out the rhetoric, when you strip out the messaging, when you strip out the propaganda, liberal ideas do better than conservative ideas. Progressive ideas do better than liberal ideas and conservative ideas. When you actually remove the word Obamacare from it, suddenly people love it. Don't take away my Affordable Care Act, but delete Obamacare. That's something you'll hear conservatives say. They'll be like, I want to remove Obamacare, but I want to keep my Affordable Care Act healthcare.
Which plan do you support, Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act?
The Affordable Care Act.
And what is it about Obamacare that you do not like?
I just think that there's a lot of holes in it, and it needs to be revamped. I think
and you think
hasn't been thought out.
You think the Affordable Care Act is a better plan than Obamacare?
Better, but I'm not happy with that either.
What do you agree with, Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act?
I'm more sort of towards the Affordable Care Act.
So the Affordable Care Act is more affordable than Obamacare?
Just the name says it all.
Right. You would agree with the Affordable Care Act?
Absolutely. I think it's nice that everyone can afford it.
Do you agree with the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare?
The affordable.
And why do you prefer the Affordable Care Act over Obamacare?
I just don't agree with the whole Obamacare policy thing that's going on. I just don't agree with it.
And do you believe that an informed citizenry is essential to a democracy?
Yes.
So you disagree with Obamacare?
Yes, I do.
Do you think insurance companies should be able to exclude people with pre-existing conditions?
No.
Do you agree that young people should be able to stay on their parents' plans until they are 26?
They should be able to, yes.
Do you agree that companies with 50 or more employees should provide health care?
I do.
And so by that logic, you would be for the Affordable Care Act?
Yes.
What plan do you support, Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act?
The Affordable Care Act.
And why do you support that over Obamacare?
Do not like Obamacare.
Do you believe that Obamacare will eventually lead to gun prohibition?
Yes.
This is another reason why I have so many issues with the modern conservative movement. Things like this, where if you, again, strip away the rhetoric and the propaganda, they'll support the actual reasonable, more logical policies. Which brings us back to this. Again, it's about leveling the playing field so that talent, not background, determines success. Perhaps the most crucial element is inclusion, which builds a culture where every employee feels valued and heard. This means creating environments where people can bring their whole selves to work without fear of discrimination. It's about building a great team, treating that team well, and retaining the employees that contribute to the teams in these environments. Accessibility is also important. The business case for DEIA, a survey done by Bridge Partners of 400 C-suite and HR leaders, reveals that 88% of large employers consider their DEIA initiatives essential, with 80% reporting positive outcomes. This is backed by concrete performance metrics. Furthermore, 73% of C-suite executives plan to expand DEIA initiatives in 2023. DEIA initiatives proved more effective than other social programs at driving business success. Research from Bridge Partners showed that an astonishing 96% of large employers rate DEIA as their most impactful social initiative, surpassing sustainability and environmental programs in recruiting, hiring, and retention outcomes. Companies with inclusive cultures report employee retention rates 5.4 times higher than their non-inclusive counterparts. So again, these sorts of programs have been shown to improve business outcomes as well. It's not just the right thing to do, it's just good for business. Anyway, let's get back to it.
There are government agencies that are hiring people on not true, proper bases. We can even look
Well,
at.
I mean,
we can even look at
do you
the
have
DNC's.
any evidence that that's happening?
Yeah, even the DNC's nomination of Kamala as president this year. There was no reason to nominate Kamala as she wasn't democratically selected.
Why does every reactionary call her Kamala? I just don't get this. Like, I'm not trying to be like woke here. Like, I'm not like, how dare you mispronounce a brown person's name? No, it's not that. It's just, like, that's just not how you pronounce her name. It's Kamala, Kamala, Kamala. But every right-winger, every, like, right-wing media talking head, call her Kamala.
She wasn't, she didn't go through a single primary, none of these things.
So you're saying...
I mean, what bro is saying is true. You know, she didn't go through a primary. She was basically anointed by the Democratic Party at that time. But it wasn't because of DEI. she was the vice president to Joe Biden. Like, I really don't like Kamala Harris, don't get me wrong, but she's an incredibly qualified candidate, you know? Vice president of the United States, a senator, a lawyer, incredibly qualified. I wish her policies were good, but she was incredibly qualified. Saying she was a DEI hire is some fucking absolute moronic, dumb person shit to say.
That Kamala was the
Sam can't even say her name right. It's not just reactionaries. Shoe-on-Head doesn't say her name right. Shoe-on-Head says Kamala. Why can't no one say Kamala Harris's name right? Did a Mandela effect into a universe where her name is actually Kamala?
Vice President of the United States after the president drops out 2 months before the convention. You think that's a DEI
She wasn't
hire?
Every presidential nominee is democratically selected to be the nominee for that
Do
party,
you realize
except
there were
for
not
Kamala
even
Harris.
primaries prior to 1972
Well,
in
sure,
the Democratic
but
Party?
this isn't before 1972.
Well, I understand, but what did you think you were going to run primaries in those 2 months?
Well,
I mean,
sure,
Joe Biden should have dropped out
even
3 years
even
ago, as far as I'm
before,
concerned.
well, sure, but even before, when Kamala was running in primaries, she didn't. She
Okay.
wasn't the next man up. None of this. She wasn't the next person.
Well, she
up.
was the vice president.
Right,
but-
of course, but
Yeah.
she wasn't
that
in
tiny
primaries.
detail. But
Right,
listen,
well,
aside from, I would have might have wanted a different candidate as well. But that has nothing to do with Trump rescinding orders that basically say you need to search for a wide range of candidates, not necessarily give any different benefits, but you need to make sure different communities have access to the awareness of this job. You need in your office accessibility for people who have physical handicaps.
Sure.
If you have folks who identify as as trans, you need to make it at least hospitable and not. This is all non-discriminatory stuff. That's what this is all about.
But you're cherry picking the.
This is another guy who seems to be popping up on a lot of like progressive Twitter's reactions to this episode.
Portions of DEI that even conservatives don't have issues. Conservatives don't have issues with making workplaces.
The whole
Yeah, buddy. You're like every conservative is like almost there. Always just like almost there. Yes. It's because the issues conservatives have with DEI are not real. They're just not real. It's made up shit like everything else conservative media is saying. He's like, everything you just said, Sam, is good, and no conservative would be against that. And it's like, well, that's what's happening. And Sam is like, where's the evidence of the other shit that you're apparently talking about? He's got nothing. Because there is no evidence that these horrific, discriminatory, evil DEI policies are destroying the fucking country to where we need to be signing 1,000 executive orders rescinding all these policies. It's dumb shit, man. It's not real. It's a fucking boogeyman. Again, a distraction for their ultimate goal, which is to help the capital-owning class, help the billionaire class get more money.
DEI apparatus within our government was a function of doing exactly what I said, had nothing to do with quotas or
it is
even
unfortunate
affirmative
that
action.
those things get taken out, and there might not have been specific
What
numerical
else was he trying
quotas.
to take out with
It's trying to take out people getting jobs that don't deserve those jobs. People getting pushed into positions that they have no qualification.
There is no evidence of what you just said happening in these government agencies.
That's not true at all. I mean, we're not allowed to sit here and have notes and numbers to pull up for you. You can't,
Give me one example.
You can't ask me to pull up numbers when I'm not able to sit here and look on a computer for you, but these are the problems that conservatives.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna do my best to, like, see what this guy's talking about, okay? Let's dive in. Is DEI causing standards to be lowered? Okay, let's check this out. So Google's AI is saying, no, DEI does not lower standards. In fact, DEI can help organizations become stronger and more innovative. Yeah, again, that's the evidence that I've seen. DEI does not mean lowering standards. It means expanding the talent pool and ensuring that all qualified individuals have equitable access to opportunities. Research consistently shows that diverse teams drive innovation and better decision-making. Again, that's what I've seen in the research. Is the government hiring unqualified employees due to DEI? I mean, I can't find anything that suggests, like, clear and obvious, just tons of evidence of unqualified hires due to these DEI policies, which again, don't really mean what conservatives think they mean. Okay, let's ask Grok, the non-woke AI chatbot. A conservative just told me that the government was using DEI to hire unqualified people. Is there any evidence of this happening? Concise answer. There is no direct, conclusive evidence from credible sources that the US government has systematically used DEI policies to hire unqualified individuals. DEI initiatives aim to promote fairness and diversity in federal hiring, but they don't mandate hiring unqualified candidates. Critics, including some conservatives, argue these policies prioritize identity over merit, pointing to anecdotal claims, example in aviation or military contexts from Twitter posts, but no peer-reviewed studies or official data confirm widespread hiring of unqualified people due to DEI. This debate remains largely ideological, with limited empirical backing for the accusation. So just like with everything else with conservatives, you have individual anecdotes, feels, but no actual concrete empirical backing. Why am I not surprised? And I don't want to just rely on Grok here. I did do some Google searches trying to find anything that Buddy here was talking about, and I could not find anything. I mean, he couldn't even name a single example to try and justify his point. It appears to me plain as day that this man fell for lies. He fell for propaganda, intentional fear-mongering by a horrific right-wing media machine that does not value concrete evidence, systemic evidence. Again, they'll point to individual anecdotes, but there's no systemic evidence for anything that they talk about. And this is yet another example of that. Let's continue.
Sorry, you've been voted out. Please return to your seat.
Thanks, Sam.
See ya.
I want to see someone just like shove someone to the ground.
Okay, so
I'm talking to fucking Sam Seder. That's what I would do.
I think the roots issue with DEI isn't what the previous gentleman was trying to point. Conservatives aren't necessarily have issues with those things like accessibility to people who might need help. The issue is, and I kind of referred to this before, when you have agencies and systems, what tends to happen when you have government overreach, big government, is that agencies and systems get abused. And I think unequivocally, DEI was heavily abused in practice. It was great in theory. It's idealistic, which is sure is fine, that a lot of people can get behind, but it was abused in a lot of ways. When you have actors, like we're in California right now, when you have actors, white male actors who are being told, we do not want white men, we're not gonna cast any white men, we only want this particular kind of gender, race, right? That is an abuse of a system. It's no longer fair.
Yeah, this is me right now, man. Is Buddy trying to be like, guys, there are not enough white men in media right now? That's the argument? There's not enough white men in media? For one, I do want to fact check this guy's claim. Let's take a look. Are white actors in California being turned away from acting roles because of their skin color? Okay, I didn't say concise answer, but let's just go through this quickly. There's no systematic, verifiable evidence that white actors in California are being widely turned away from acting roles solely due to their skin color. However, anecdotal claims and some industry shifts suggest this perception exists among certain groups. Again, anecdotal claims are all conservatives have, and it makes me want to fucking explode. I don't know what to say. Since around 2017, Hollywood has faced growing pressure to address historical underrepresentation of non-white actors, spurred by movements like Oscars So White and studies. For example, UCLA's 2020 Hollywood Diversity Report showing white actors still dominate leading roles, about 70 to 75% of film roles, despite being 60% of the population. This has led to more color-conscious casting, where roles are sometimes reserved for actors of color to reflect diversity or cultural authenticity, especially in projects tied to specific ethnic narratives. for example, Black Panther or Crazy Rich Asians. Some white actors and commentators on platforms like Twitter have claimed the shift results in reverse discrimination, pointing to instances where casting calls explicitly seek non-white actors. For example, a 2021 casting notice for a Netflix project reportedly specified non-Caucasian leads, fueling online debate. Okay, what is this? So, what? I mean, I cannot find evidence of this from my quick search, and it doesn't source it? Like, usually, sometimes Grok will source things. Oh, here's some sources. Can I control F for Netflix? Oh, that is not how you spell Netflix. Netflix. No? Okay, well, I can't find evidence of this happening. But again, I mean, if the project, kind of like with Black Panther and Crazy Rich Asians, I mean, if the project is about a story involving non-Caucasian people, I mean, I don't know. On the flip side, no hard data, such as rejection statistics or industry-wide surveys, confirms white actors are broadly excluded. SAG-AFTRA, the actors union, doesn't track casting rejections by race, and California's anti-discrimination laws, for example, Fair Employment and Housing Act, still protect against racial bias in employment, including acting. High-profile white actors like Chris Hemsworth and Scarlett Johansson continue landing major roles, suggesting opportunities remain robust. Critics argue the turned-away narrative exaggerates a push for inclusivity into a zero-sum game, ignoring that white actors have historically benefited from inclusionary practices. For example, whitewashing roles, like in The Last Airbender. The reality likely lies in between. Some roles are now prioritized for non-white actors to correct past imbalances, but white actors aren't systematically embarred. Perceptions of inclusion may stem from more cultural debates than a measurable trend. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, let's look at the 2024 worldwide box office. Inside Out 2 was about a white girl. Amy Poehler, who plays Joy, is a white lady. Deadpool and Wolverine, both white dudes. Moana 2, okay, you know, Polynesian. Despicable Me 4, I mean, the main guy, I've never seen any of those movies, but like Gru? Right? He's white. Wicked, okay. Elphaba's played by a black woman in this rendition. Ariana Grande, I mean, isn't she white? I mean, who knows? Dune Part 2, Paul Atreides is white, so a white lead. Mufasa, this had a predominantly black cast, probably, right? But like, Billy Eichner's in there, John Oliver's in there, there's plenty of white people in there. Godzilla vs. Kong, The New Empire, I did not see this one. Is Millie Bobby Brown in this one? I have no idea the demographics of this one. Kung Fu Panda 4, I mean, Jack Black, he's white. It's about, I guess, you know, Chinese pandas, but, you know, a white actor still is the lead in this movie. Sonic 3, I mean, Ben Schwartz, who voices Sonic, is white. The guy in the movie is white. Venom: The Last Dance, I mean, Tom Hardy, right, is white. Gladiator 2, I did not see this one either. Isn't the Gladiator a white dude? Beetlejuice, Michael Keaton's white. Most of the cast was white. I know Jenna Ortega's in there as like a secondary lead. I don't know what YOLO is. I don't know what Pegasus 2 is. I don't know what Successor is. Bad Boys Ride or Die, okay, a couple of black dudes. I did not see the most recent Planet of the Apes movie. Twisters, I did not see. Glenn Powell is very much a white dude. I want to see the lead of Alien Romulus was white. I still haven't seen The Wild Robot. I don't know what Article 20 is. Quiet Place Day 1. Looks like Lupita Nyong'o is on the front of the poster, but right behind her is, don't worry folks, a white guy. So, I don't know. I mean, Garfield movie voiced by Chris Pratt. Joker 2, both leads were white. Ghostbusters, Paul Rudd, Flint Wolfhard, a bunch of white people. My point is, it doesn't seem to me that white people are an underrepresented minority in media today. Virtually all of these movies, outside of a couple exceptions, have a white lead or co-lead. So to me, the guy's argument that, like, I guess that white people are underrepresented in media does not seem to hold up to scrutiny.
But more about just perpetuating one aspect of, you know, visual compelling aspects, because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is companies are going to say, well, we want to look the most diverse.
Okay, well,
and what that is it's moral grandstanding. It's saying because we have more black women, we sell better soda, like that.
I got you.
That is not.
Well, that's getting a little far afield from what Trump's DEI orders are. But I can tell you, as somebody who was a sitcom actor in the 90s, I would walk into a room and everybody I would see would look like me. And I was doing a second position, which doesn't even exist anymore, where you do 2 pilots a year. And I was looking around basically every part of television when I was a kid. I was centered in some fashion. It was either this is about my mother, or this is about my father, or someone like me was centered. So, we can argue as to whether or not Hollywood is overcorrected in some fashion. But on a governmental level, the DEIA...
Yeah, and Sam brings up a very good point that I do talk about all the time as well, where some, people, some institutions will overcorrect to try and tackle or make up for some of these issues. I personally don't think hiring more minority actors, is a bad thing in any conceivable way. I haven't seen any evidence of, brown people making toothpaste commercials worse by being worse actors than white counterparts they're stealing jobs from. I don't know. Just feels like nonsense to me. Again, nonsense when the real problem is corporations fucking us all over. It's like we're talking about the dumbest, most pointless shit when there are massive fucking problems affecting working. I talk about this all the time. 60,000 Americans die due to lack of healthcare access every year, okay? I want to stop 60,000 of my countrymen from dying every year. These attacks on DEI aren't gonna do that. Americans are homeless. Many Americans are starving. Many American children are starving. I want to tackle these things, and tackling DEI does not affect that in any capacity. Could certain institutions overcorrect, as Sam Seder points out? Yes, it does happen. It 100% happens. I have made videos about it in the past, but my point that I will always stress is, even if these things are overcorrections, there are just much bigger issues to tackle, and these things are not tied to what's making Americans' lives worse.
Directives that agencies were following for the past 4 years. There's nothing, I don't know what you mean by abuse on it, but there is no evidence that it was an affirmative action program in those instances. It was about anti-discrimination. You cannot discriminate against these people, and you want to open up opportunities for a broad swath of people. Again, the internship is like one of the most material things that exist there, where the idea that you need to pay interns. And that's important because you want low-income people to have the same sort of like opportunities to see these things as wealthy people. My kids can maybe afford to do an internship for the summer instead of going to get a job.
I think what's happening is we're talking about two different things.
But I'm talking about Trump's DEIA rescission is a way of basically driving people out of these agencies, making it
You're saying Trump specifically, and I understand why you're saying Trump, but I think the American people as a whole have kind of, and I won't say whole because obviously it's not 100%, but a majority of the American people have kind of rejected DEI because, again,
I don't think a majority of Americans know what DEI.
Exactly, bro. What are you talking about, man? Y'all don't even know what this shit is. Yes, many Americans have fallen for the fake right-wing version of DEI and hate that. Sam Seder is absolutely right, as always. Americans, conservatives especially, are afraid of something they just don't understand. A tale as old as time.
DEIA is...
That may be the case, but again, my point is we're talking about abuse of a system. What you're talking about is not necessarily what was happening. What people were seeing...
Where's the evidence of what these guys are talking about? We have now seen 2 conservatives come up, claim DEI is one thing, and have not cited a shred of evidence. They're just talking out of their asses. Not even like fake evidence. Give me fake evidence. Like something that I can debunk. They're just claiming something was happening without citing a shred of empirical evidence. We are so cooked, man. This is so depressing.
Or, hey, because you're white, you can't do this. And liberals like to do this thing where they create systems, and then they created the whole idea of woke, and then they backed away, and then conservatives say woke, and then they're like, well, we don't know what woke is. They created DEI. Biden literally said Kamala Harris is being chosen because she is a black woman, and then all of a sudden, Democrats for the rest after that said that's not why she was chosen, even though Biden literally said that. And then we have this cognitive dissonance as if we're not living in reality.
Biden wanted to make sure that there was that there was an opportunity for a black woman to be his vice president.
Yes,
without
but
a doubt.
so why did Democrats move away from that and say no? It wasn't because she was a black woman.
I don't know
my point is that
it's not because she's a black woman.
But that's what they said. I can agree that it's not because she's a black woman, but that's what they said. Why did they say that then?
No, because there are plenty of black women, right? Like, he could have picked anybody, but he picked specifically her. You're positing the idea that there wasn't a black woman who would have been qualified for that position.
No,
and I don't believe that.
No, that's not what conservatives aren't.
Yeah. So here's the thing. We have had 47 presidents, 45 individual men, more vice presidents. I think it's like maybe 59 or 60 something. I don't know. And they've all been men. Aside from Obama as our first black president, they've all been white men. And yeah, I mean, wanting to pick a highly qualified person from an underrepresented community, I personally don't have an issue with. Were there probably plenty of equally qualified, like on paper, take away name and background, equally qualified, white men to have been Biden's vice president? Yes, absolutely. But I do think I'll just say this. I do think there are positives to picking someone from an underrepresented community who has those equal on paper qualifications, but their background will have them have a different perspective, one that I think is valuable to have. Her perspective as a woman, her perspective as a person of color. This is completely surface level, but as a sign of progress, coming from a country that had laws restricting women from voting as early as a century ago, that, had chattel slavery for centuries, and then a century additional of horrific apartheid level discrimination. You could maybe call that virtue signaling, I guess. But I do think it could also be seen as just a sign that the sexist and racist beliefs that we had, that women shouldn't hold positions of power, that people of color in this country should be systemically discriminated against, are fading away to some degree. Obviously, a lot of those perceptions still exist, don't get me wrong. But I think it is a good thing that we can point to, look, we had 250 years of only men as president and vice president. Now look, things are a little bit better today. We can have a woman be chosen by the American people to be a vice president. I mean, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. More Americans chose to vote for Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump in 2016. And I don't even think it's true that Biden said he was going to pick a black woman. I mean, he said he was committed to picking a woman, but he didn't specify a woman of a particular race or ethnicity. So if I'm remembering what the guy said, he was just mostly incorrect there, or like half incorrect. So yeah, I mean, I do ultimately want to get to a point where, we don't have to talk about race or gender. I don't think we're quite there yet, unfortunately.
Saying that there aren't, because again, even in the Republican Party right now, and in Trump's cabinet, there are people of color that Democrats pretend don't exist, like J.D. Vance's wife, and
J.D. Vance's wife is not in the cabinet.
No, but if J.D. Vance was a Democrat, his wife would be lauded all over everything because of her color of her skin.
I'm not here to
What? I mean, one, I don't think that would happen. Two, it would not be like a good thing, I guess, to do that.
defend the Democrats' choice on every policy. But there is one party in this country that is identitarian. There is one party that is represented and it is homogenous, and it is the Republican Party. 85% of Republicans are white. And that's just the reality of it.
So does that
Some
mean
people
that?
don't necessarily have a problem with that.
But here's the thing. You said even if let's just say, okay, that's true. 80% of Republicans are white. Does that mean that they're less moral? That they can't run an effective government? What does race have to do? What does race have to do? Hold on. What does
Donald Trump didn't have to say, my vice president's going to be a white male.
No.
Because they all knew it was going to be.
No, this is the premise of DEI. What does race have to do with running an effective government? What does race have to do? If let's say DEI on the micro level.
I will tell you right now.
DEI on the micro level at McDonald's.
Again, we are at the stage of faulty premises, okay? These people, these two men right here have two separate definitions of DEI. Sam has repeatedly explained what DEI is. Both of the conservatives so far have come up and said, well, we actually don't mind that version of DEI that Sam is describing. You know, the real version of DEI. The only version of DEI that exists, that is clearly verifiable, that exists. And these guys are talking about this like mythical, fake version of DEI that their right-wing media has fed to them. A false narrative that Sam would not want to be happening. Again, this idea that there's like inscribed laws that say no white people allowed anywhere. Yeah, Sam wouldn't want that. No one would want that, but that's just not what's fucking happening. So unfortunately, and I hope Sam can realize this and kind of steer it back to your entire premise is faulty.
I'll tell
Am I
you.
gonna
Ask me
get
a
better
question.
nuggets?
I'll ask you a question.
If the cashier is black or white, what does that have to do with anything?
I'll tell you what it. First of all, DEIA means that if you come into this agency or corporation, you're not going to be discriminated against because you don't look like everybody else, or you don't have the same like physical abilities as everybody else, or you may require handles on the bathroom or whatever it is. That's what DEIA does. But does it make a government?
Show me the receipts then, brother. Show me. Sam Seder asked this man, give me a piece of evidence. So the guy's like, well, I didn't write everything down. You don't need to have an entire fact sheet on you. Give me a piece of evidence of this happening. Like, obviously, I'd prefer a systemic analysis on this, but like even an individual anecdote, he could not even pull out. The like one thing conservatives rely on, neither of these two guys could even do because this fucking boogeyman that they're afraid of is not real.
Better if there's a broad representation of the people it's supposed to govern, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless of DEI, don't we already have things in our Constitution that protect people's rights, protects people?
No.
We don't?
No.
Do we or do we not?
No, we do not. Tell me what protects people from discrimination in housing and in work and hiring or getting loans. It's all statutes. It's all statutes. And in these government agencies, there was nothing except for that order. That's why Trump just rescinded it.
I'm gonna tap out because I think someone else has a better, can defend that point specifically better than me.
All right, please return to your seat.
I just love every conservative like tries to talk like they know the Constitution without knowing a single fucking flying fuck about what is in the actual United States Constitution, man. It's hilarious.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Okay, when it comes to DEI, essentially, if a person was not racist, he would hire someone regardless, right? So why would we need a policy to protect a person if we've moved past racism? So would you consider yourself racist?
Wait, are you suggesting we've moved past racism?
Would you consider yourself racist?
I'd consider my...
Yeah, again, based on the assumption, this guy's basing on a faulty assumption that we've 100% just moved past racism. It just doesn't exist anymore.
Myself, and sometimes I think we all practice like some form of,
Yeah, implicit biases, systemic racism. It's real. It's there.
White supremacy. I think actually like we all do to some degree.
Sam is correct, but that's like a 300 level course when conservatives are still in like, preschool, like a 300 level college course that Sam is talking about. When we're talking to conservatives, we're talking about people who are like still in like kindergarten. Do you know what I mean? Meaning Sam is not wrong with what he's saying, but like that type of rhetoric just will not work with the conservative mind today, man.
Well, I'm glad that you're saying that. So I guess going to the LGBT topic, it seems like it's very prevalent for you as an issue.
Well, it seems like a big issue. I mean, the Republican Party spent literally hundreds of millions of dollars demonizing trans people.
Well, the reason why they've done something like that, and I think you're misconstruing the narrative, they haven't demonized them. They simply want protections back for their own children, because children are being stripped away from
Who's
their
their
parents.
own children? Wait, children are being stripped away from their parents?
Yes, due to AB 954, they've now included gender identity as a premise to remove and strip parental rights for children who maybe they are rejecting their gender ideology.
So, but you'd be okay with parents who agree with their children's doctors to provide gender-affirming care?
I do not agree with that. Do you?
I believe that parents and doctors can make those decisions with the kids.
If a child can't smoke, drink, or have sex before the age of 18, they should not be able to consent to a sex change. Now, in terms of a DEI initiative, the reason...
This is a pretty common conservative talking point. It's like, if they can't consent to drinking or sex or whatever, how can they consent to gender-affirming care? I guess this guy phrased it as a sex change. But like, yeah, when parents and a doctor talk about the healthcare of a child, the child can be prescribed medications or various forms of therapy, surgeries. I never particularly understood this like argument from conservatives.
The reason why there's military bans on trans women and trans men is because they do not have the ability to cooperate at a mental capacity when they're constantly undergoing hormone treatment, as well as depression pills, as well as different mood stabilizer pills. And so when you go out to combat,
man, my man's talking about the mental health fitness of American soldiers, and he's saying trans people are the problem. Boy, oh boy. It goes without saying that there's no evidence of what he's saying, that people who are taking, hormone replacement therapy, people who are on antidepressants or whatever can't serve in the military. That like being on hormone replacement therapy like fucks up your brain so much that you can't serve in the military. Just no evidence of this. I'm not even like, I don't even have to Google this to fact check it. It'd just be a waste of time. If you want to show me that there's some systemic analysis about like the mental capacity of trans people and their ability to serve in the military, you can post it in the comments. I'd like to read it, but it doesn't exist. And I have no clue what Buddy is talking about here.
do you really think you're going to bring an ice cooler pack with your, whether that be hormone, estrogen, or whatever it may be, while you're about to shoot someone of the opposing war?
Well, the executive orders that Trump gave were DEIA orders that had to do with agencies that have nothing to do with the military.
Yes, they do. Yes, they absolutely do.
The FDA... They just revoked the ability of the Air Force to teach Air Force members about the Tuskegee Airmen.
Well,
what are we talking about here?
Okay, well...
Honestly, like, they're rewriting history.
Well, that's your perspective, right? But at the end of the day, if a person...
Tuskegee Airmen, we can all agree, existed, right?
Just listen to this. If you were racist, right, and you were an employer, and if you wanted to...
Am I not allowed to call these people fucking stupid? Am I just not allowed to do that? I get a lot of comments, man, from conservatives, from liberals, from progressives, from leftists, admonishing me for saying that people like this, who say shit like this, are just fucking stupid. I don't know what to say, man. I also just rewinded the whole video, so hang on.
And if
all agree existed, right?
Just listen to this. If you were racist, right, and you were an employer, and if you wanted to absolutely be racist and exercise that, you would. I think DEI sort of prevents people from seeing the reality. If a person truly wanted to hire you based on your intellect, based on your skill set, they would. DEI essentially provides tax cuts. For the end of the year, when you create your tax returns, they give you a tax credit for hiring someone who is black or a person of color. I don't know if you knew that.
In these agencies?
In agencies and private
In government
businesses.
agencies, they don't get tax cuts for hiring people
And
of
the
color.
other thing I wanted
This is
to,
to
and I,
protect
the other
people
thing I
from
want
discrimination.
the other thing I want to kind of state here is that I've realized that a lot of the times with the liberals is that you guys push for example, for
He was saying that federal agencies get tax cuts for DEI. I'm going to guess he just misspoke because that made no fucking sense.
DEI and people of Latino or Hispanic descent. And a lot of the times what you don't realize is you're actually doing more harm than good by putting them in positions where you make them believe that it's based on the color of their skin. It's based on...
DEIA does not is not
It's based on merit. DEI emphasizes color, skin color, physical attributes.
It says that the people who work in your agency, it's about anti-discrimination.
Discrimination against what?
Against people who may have different cultural mores, may have different...
But that's irrelevant to a job, right? It should be based on merit. And that is the emphasis
People
here.
get hired as a merit, but if the DEIA, I'm talking about Trump's rescission of these orders
If you received a
on
tax
these
cut
agencies.
as an employer, wouldn't you hire a person of color?
Dude,
if you could pay them less?
Listen, we're talking about government agencies that do not get tax cuts. Government agencies...
They don't.
No.
Yes, they do. They absolutely do.
I'm talking about
every private and public sector gets tax cuts when you hire a person of color.
Government agencies don't pay taxes. Government agencies operate are funded by the government.
That is not true. That is not true. And you know what? I think the whole juxtapose of this entire...
Am I not allowed to call these people stupid, man? When am I allowed to call these people stupid? What the fuck is going on, man? Open the schools. My first executive order when I become president is going to be transferring every penny we spend on our military and putting it into public education. Holy shit, dude. Far too many of us are just so fucking stupid, okay? Look, I'm fucking stupid. I know it, okay? But somehow, there are people a lot dumber than me, and that's a fucking problem. Okay, if this is the line, okay, and over here is smart people, okay? Yeah, okay, I'm over here. That's fine. Clearly, some people are, like, over here, okay? I am not trying to pretend I am anything that I'm not. Okay. But clearly, some of us are just so fucking stupid. Also, Sam's look here, man. Holy shit.
That is not true. And you know what? I think the whole juxtapose of this...
he gyms the camera. He's like, dude, we are giga cooked, man.
This entire conversation...
What month is this?
This is January.
Okay, so we can agree on that. The FDA does not pay taxes. It does not get a tax cut because it doesn't pay taxes. DEIA forces them as an agency to say if you have a job opening, you must do your best efforts to make sure that every
I like that.
part
I love
of
me a
society...
buzzword. You must do your best effort. I love that buzzword.
Okay, pause.
Because you feel like you have to. You're pressured to.
Yes.
You shouldn't be pressured to hire someone based on skin color.
No, not to hire someone on skin color, but put up notice about that the job exists. Make sure that you put it in different communities so that you have as wide an application pool as possible.
And therefore you get tax
right.
cuts.
All right, return
At
to your
the end of the year when you file taxes, you get a tax cut for hiring someone who speaks
Please
a different
return to your
language or
seat.
different skin color.
I don't know how to respond to that.
I literally don't know what to say, man. I mean, we just watched this one, right? One conservative versus 25 LGBTQ plus people, and there was a lot of annoying, like, lib shit from the libs in that one. There was some good stuff, but man, even the worst, most annoying lib is a quadrillion times more informed than any fucking conservative, man. This is insanity.
How you doing?
So I want a little bit more clarification, because I don't even know if we got it yet, on which part benefits corporations, like from your perspective.
So agencies, the U.S. government agencies, the vast majority of them, what they function to do is inhibit corporations from essentially externalizing their costs onto society.
Sure.
So the example.
I love him. I love him so much. He's so right. He is so fucking right. God, dude. Yes. All these fucking conservatives think the government is their enemy. When the government is the only thing keeping the fucking corporations from poisoning you with lead, from destroying your water supply, from paying you nothing, from making you work every day of the week for 12 hours a day. The government is the only thing keeping the corporations from doing this, because they would do it. They would do all that and more. The private sector would do slavery if they could. The private sector in America today benefits from slavery in the global south today because they get more profit for not paying people. They are the enemy, not DEI. Not the government. Yes, could our government be better? Of course it could. The government being shitty is an intentional thing that Republicans want to do to make you hate the government, so that we can dismantle the government, so that we can give the corporations more power, so that they can all make more fucking money. And we are caught. We are left holding the bag. Sam is 100% right. And right-wing media has done an incredible job convincing Americans that the government is their enemy and not the fucking corporations, not the capital owners. It's trans people, it's immigrants, it's big government, yada, yada, yada. It's everything except the corporations, the billionaires, the capital owners. I mean, the guy... Let's rewind, because the guy basically said, like, yup. I'm sure he just didn't know what Sam was saying and just kind of just agreed. I mean, I could tell, like, you know, high adrenaline environment. You're on camera with, you know, someone who you're trying to combat who is a professional. You are not, probably. I don't know who this guy is. But so you're going to just be a little, like I said, like high adrenaline. So you might say yeah to something like that. But he did just say yeah to the very true thing Sam just said.
Would their costs onto society.
Sure.
So
sure. Yeah, sure. Yes, that's everything. That's everything. That is everything. Are you a leftist now? Is this guy a leftist now? Sure. 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 The people you're supporting and voting for don't think sure to that. God.
The example would be, I used it before, but it's a good one. I'm making Teflon, C8, for instance, okay? And C8 is supposed to be burned because instead of deposited, because it's a forever chemical. And I can go out and instead of burning it, it's too expensive to burn it, I'm gonna dump it into a river. And the EPA comes in and says, you can't do that, we're gonna fine you. You're not allowed to do this. But what the company is doing when they do that is they're going to take the profits that come with lowering their costs by dumping it into the river, and those costs are then borne by everybody who lives around that river. They're going to get cancer, they're going to get gastrointestinal problems, whatever it is. And society bears the cost of that.
Can you connect the dots for me, though? Because it's...
Privatize the profits. Socialize the losses, socialize the issues. Tale as old as time.
Sounds like we're talking about something completely different.
No. And so the DEIA stuff is just the beginning of demoralizing these agencies and trying to wreck them from the inside. It's all part of Russell Vought's thing, the OMB, the whole Schedule F, where they get rid of civil servants and they demoralize people and they don't want them to be able to function.
So then would you agree if this is...
Yes! Yes, dude! That is everything! Sam just laid it out completely, plainly, and correctly. That is what's happening, man. He just perfectly demonstrated how these attacks on DEI will directly lead to corporations having more power, i.e. more profit, more ability to exploit workers, more ability to exploit the land in order to make themselves, their shareholders, more profit. Not benefit society, not pay their employees more, profit, pocket more profit. Sam's got it 100%. This is the issue. This is the reality. 100 million % correct. Sam Seder is here.
Is about demoralizing. I mean, over 75 million people voted for Trump, right? He won the popular vote. Do you not think that in part, you even said yourself that Americans don't really know what DEIA is, according to your definition of it?
Well, the government's definition of it.
Okay, well, I would argue that the average American is demoralized by what they've seen, the way that the government goes about their DEI policies.
By what they've seen, by what your dumb fuck right-wing media is hyper-focusing on, man. Yes, Americans are mad. A lot of Americans are mad about a lot of things they should not be mad about. They're mad about a lot of things that they do not understand. Yes, that is true. That is a major fucking issue, man.
In the military and other organizations, not just the military.
Please return to your seat.
Okay.
Hey, before we...
No.
My next claim is, unless you're a billionaire, a religious fundamentalist, or a xenophobic nationalist, voting for Trump was a mistake.
We will tackle this after a wardrobe change. Okay, it's been a couple days. Let's jump right back in. So, I mean, this language is kind of charged, but I mean, I doubt anyone in this audience is a billionaire, but I mean, religious fundamentalist, these people would probably, many of them would probably self-describe themselves as religious fundamentalists. Xenophobic nationalists, I mean, that one's a little more like... Some might be hesitant to admit that directly. I would guess others would not be. And I think we're going to see a mix of that as well. So, I mean, I don't disagree with this claim. I mean, you know, billionaires, obviously, a lot of issues with billionaires. I have a lot of issues with religious fundamentalism and have a lot of issues with xenophobic nationalism, as would Sam Seder. None of these three things are issues with many conservatives. There might be a twinge of nuance that these people might bring up, but overall, I mean, I'm sure these guys are going to be like, yeah, I'm a religious fundamentalist. Of course, that's why I voted for Trump. Or, yeah, we should be xenophobic. We should be nationalistic. Trump has described himself as a nationalist. These people like Trump. If Trump describing himself as a nationalist wasn't a problem with these people, you know, they probably wouldn't be here. So yeah, I don't really love this claim that Sam is providing here. Not that, again, not that I disagree. And I would say, unless you are the billionaire and you're like a working class religious fundamentalist or working class xenophobic nationalist, you're also going to be realize, well, hopefully you probably won't, voting for Trump was a mistake for you as well. Yes, he's doing certain things that you like in the short term. If you're religious, maybe you like that he's hurting trans people and LGBTQ plus people. If you're a xenophobic nationalist, you're like, okay, yeah, in the short term, he's hurting brown people, so you're probably excited about that. But in the long term, none of these things that they're doing are going to make your lives better. In many ways, the things they're doing are going to make your life worse. And the only people who will ultimately benefit from this are the millionaire and billionaire class, the capital owning class. So let's see where things go. I didn't do this in, again, the first part of this video that I recorded a couple days ago. I'm going to turn the playback speed to 1.25. So sorry if that's jarring, but here we go. Sorry, I'm going to change the input. Oh my God. Did this guy already talk? Like I said, it's been a couple days since I've watched this, but if you've already talked, you should let someone else talk a little bit. Is Sorry if I have a light going in and out, so I'm sorry if that's jarring as well. Professional setup here, folks. This is a set. This isn't the basement of my house. This is a set, okay? And I don't run a good set. On the other side of these walls are like more cubicles with progressive content creators. We're like the Daily Wire. Hey Hassan, can you keep it down? I'm trying to film right now. That light just keeps going out. Hopefully, just stay out, okay? This looks fine enough. Just stay out.
Okay, so let's tackle one aspect, religious fundamentalists. What benefit would religious fundamentalists get? And also, can you define what is a religious fundamentalist?
Well, what benefit would religious fundamentalists get out of a Trump admin? I mean, these people literally treat Trump like they're his fucking god. Look at all the various God, guns, and Trump merch you can buy. This is their favorite little catchphrase. God, guns, and Trump. God, guns, and Trump. God, guns, Trump, freedom. God, guns, and Trump. God, guns, and Trump. Pro-life, pro-God, pro-gun, pro-Trump. God, guns, and Trump. God, guns, and Trump. God, guns, and Trump. God, guns, and Trump 2024. Have you guys seen this, like, golden goat that's in Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate right now? These are $100 bills with Benjamin Franklin replaced with Trump. And instead of "In God We Trust," it says "In Trump We Trust." There's a literal goat idol with money with his face on it, replacing "In God We Trust" with "In Trump We Trust." What if Obama did this? I would give anything, literally one of my kidneys, if I could just get a glimpse of the alternate timeline where there was literally this, but it was Obama. Just a golden goat at Obama's house or the White House while he was president, with his face replacing Benjamin Franklin and "In Obama We Trust" instead of "In Trump We Trust." I want to see how conservatives would react. I think it would start a chain reaction that would literally unleash more power than every nuclear bomb on Earth combined. But because it's Trump, they don't care. Maybe you haven't even heard of this. "In Trump We Trust." Anyway, I don't even know how I got into this tangent. Anyway, yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that religious fundamentalists are going to like about Trump is some of the rhetoric. They created this thing called the White House Faith Office. In February 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump ordered the creation of the White House Faith Office, a new White House office. So a lot of it is going to be like rhetoric like this. Trump, famously religious, a very godly person Trump is. One of the funniest clips of all time is when like a news reporter asked him to like name his favorite Bible verse, and Trump just couldn't. He couldn't think of one Bible verse. Trump was like, "I love the Bible. I'm so religious. I'm so Christian, I promise." And the guy was like, "What's your favorite Bible verse?" And Trump was like, "I don't want to tell you that. I don't want to tell you that. I don't want to tell that." And it's like, anyone can just tell he could not think of one. He was like, "Oh, it's personal." He just could not think of one. Clearly, just could not think of one Bible verse. It's all so fake, man. It's all so fake with him. I don't know how so many of you are duped by this monumental piece of shit. It is incredible to me. This is who runs that White House Faith Office. She's one of those like televangelists who goes on screen and is like a giant scammer, allegedly, and tells their viewers that you have to give them money if you want to get into heaven. You know, that scam, quote unquote, allegedly. Her last name was like Führer, and she was born on Hitler's birthday? Paula Führer, or Fur, I don't know how to pronounce that. Born on Hitler's birthday? Okay. 2 divorces, huh? Very, very godly. Don't tell Michael Knowles. Anyway, yeah, and they're passing anti-LGBTQ, stuff every day. Anyway, I told myself I was going to pause and yap less, and all I've done is yap. We've listened to this video for 30 seconds since I've come back. Let's try and actually watch. Come on, Dima. Watch the fucking video.
And maybe you could say more of like a Christian nationalist.
Okay.
In this instance. But things like, the attacks on trans folks, the attacks on a woman's right to choose, the idea that we're going to get stuff like an enhanced RFRA, which is going to mean that if you're a pharmacist and you don't want to provide birth control, you may not have to.
Don't you think you're assuming that
if you believe that public education, we should take that money and pour it into religious schools, you're gonna get a benefit out of a Trump administration.
Yeah, but don't you think you're assuming that the vast majority of Americans who are moderates?
Like, what do you think you're gonna get out of the Trump administration?
Economic relief. That was
what kind of economic relief? They're gonna cut Social Security. You're gonna have to pay for your.
No, I mean, there are plenty of religious fundamentalists who do want the things Sam Seder just said, things that will make things worse for a lot of people. The idea that the overwhelming majority of people who voted for Trump were moderates is kind of silly in my eyes. Look, guys, if you want moderate conservatism, vote for the Democratic Party. They are a moderate center-right party. What are they doing that is remotely progressive or leftist, even center-left? Are they giving us universal health care? Are they strongly advocating for workplace democracy and unions, criminal justice reform, truly taxing the rich, free college, student loan forgiveness, cutting military spending, actually fighting anthropogenic climate change, removing the levers that allow the rich to influence our politicians and elections and life in general, like getting money out of politics? They don't even want to treat immigrants as humans anymore. They're basically the 2016 Republican Party when it comes to immigration now. So while there are some Democrats who do, you know, a little bit of what I just described and are advocating for some of the things I just described, on the whole, no. On the whole, they are just status quo defenders. Functionally conservatives. The only place where they are like remotely, like, I guess, left of center are on some social issues, like on like LGBTQ plus issues. And even then, it's like they're starting to come out as more conservative there. Look at Gavin Newsom. It's just the Overton window is so far right at this point that these like centrist, center-right Democrats are seen as like, they're calling them communists. They call Joe Biden a communist. He was not even for like Medicare for all. What do you mean he's a communist? Y'all are insane. Oh my God, I'm doing the thing where I'm not watching the video. Fuck.
Your parents, they're going to cut when they go after the agencies like they're going after, right? This is outlined in Project 2025. Russ Vought, who's going to be the OMB head, he was
not gonna be, is the head of the Office of Management and Budget, right? Is Russell Vought, the architect of Project 2025. We are so fucking cooked, man. It just makes me sad seeing how happy these people are to let these fuckers fuck them over so hard. Just endlessly depressing for me.
The OMB head the first time around. He wrote all the book on this stuff.
Okay, well, you bring up
when you cut agencies and go after them, and you fire all the inspector generals so that they're not being able to make sure that the agencies are working, who do you think profits from that? It's corporations. They're going to go after.
Yes. Yes. The only people who benefit from tax cuts, really, and deregulation are the corporations, the billionaire class. 100%.
Agencies that make sure your food is not full of botulism, that your air is not full of mercury, that your water is not full of C8. This is what they're going to do. Agencies exist to curb corporations.
I legitimately am on like the fucking brink of tears, man. Just how right this man is, how utterly fucked we're all gonna be by letting these pieces of shit have this much power. I don't know what to say. The amount of people that are gonna be horrifically hurt by this shit, an utter tragedy. Putting these people in power is a complete and utter tragedy.
From externalizing their costs and privatizing their profits.
Yes, also true. Maybe I said this in my previous recording of this, but yes, losses are always socialized. Profits are always privatized. These companies earn a profit, they pocket it. The shareholders pocket it. The employees don't see any of it. The shareholders take in all the profits. Something goes wrong. There's tariffs. They're not going to take less profit. They're just going to pass on the additional costs onto the consumers, onto their employees. They're going to cut jobs before they cut executive pay. Same as 100% right as usual.
So it may be cheaper for a company to dump their chemicals into a river than it is for them to dispose of it in a safe way. And so they get the profits from that, but the costs are borne by society. They're borne by society in the form of like people get cancer. They're borne by society in terms of like we've got to do the cleanup. That's what agencies do.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
That's good.
I want to hear a response to that. Someone give a response to that. It's true. It's 100% true. I said it in the previous recording of this. These corporations would gladly poison you with lead for an extra penny in their quarterly profit margins. There is just unthinkable amounts of evidence of this happening. They will gleefully exploit labor. They will gleefully exploit the environment at the expense of the worker, all for even the most marginal increases in their profit margins.
Leonard.
That's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so I would like to touch on the religious fundamentalist aspect.
Yeah.
Are you an atheist?
I'm a Reformed Jew. I don't have a strong belief in the existence of God, but I don't think that religion in and of itself is bad.
Okay, so what's wrong with religious fundamentalists? So like when you said trans rights and women's rights or something like that?
Well, the problem I have with religious fundamentalists, and really more, I guess it's really theocrats, is that they want to impose their morality that comes from their religion on the rest of us. And I don't.
But morality, from your view, is going to be a preference, right? It's not morality; it's a preference. So morality without a foundation is going to reduce you to a preference.
Well, I have a foundation for my morality.
Which is what?
It's a humanist vision of what basically creates as little suffering as possible for as many people.
Okay, so you're like a consequence.
Hey! Yeah, that's... I have not heard Sam say this, but that is exactly how I see it too. And it's just like, I don't know why all these like fucking little religious nerds need like a reason beyond, look, we're intelligent animals. We know what it's like to feel pain. We know what it's like to suffer. It sucks. Why would I want that on someone else? The golden rule, treat others how you would like to be treated. It's also a selfish thing. Like, if society's better, my life is fucking better. If other people are nicer, if other people are happier, if other people are fucking smarter, my life gets better. My family's life gets to be better. So when I do think it is just the right thing to do, helping others, maximizing the most amount of happiness for the most amount of people, it's also a selfish thing from my perspective. Because if things are good for everybody, things are good for me too. And it's just like, I don't see why we need a separate entity to define morality for us. No, the reason I don't hurt people is because I think someone above me is telling me I shouldn't do it. No, there's some pretty clear definable reasons why it's not okay to hurt others. Plenty of people don't hurt others without needing religion. Plenty of religious people hurt others despite their religion saying don't hurt others.
Consequentialist? Utilitarian?
I don't really bother myself with being a consequentialist or a utilitarian.
It's always going to reduce you to a preference. So if you say that killing is wrong and I say it's right, you would really have no contention with that.
Well, no, I don't base my understanding of...
This is what, like, I like philosophy. I really like thinking about these types of things. I think at some point there needs to be... Oh, the light came back on. I think at some point there needs to be like a... I don't know how to put it. Almost like a common sense button, where it's just like things that are just kind of self-evident. Like, it's not okay to torture people for no reason at all. If an alien comes down and says, look, if you don't torture that person right now, I'm going to torture all people for all eternity, then yeah, okay. In that scenario, it is the morally correct thing for you to go torture that one person. It's the trolley problem, right? All conversations about morality and ethics and philosophy divulge into the trolley problem.
Civil society on religion. And so we have a civil society. We have laws that we have decided as a society in a democratic way. And for some people, it's okay for it to be informed by their religion. That's okay.
Okay, perfect. So if the moral society comes together and we say, hey, trans folks don't deserve rights, you would be okay with that?
No, I would be against it, but I mean, it would be
morally right under your
not
view.
Morally right. No. I'm not talking about morals.
Okay, so here's where I'm getting to, right? Religious foundations provide an ethical framework for one to live their life off.
I believe you can have an ethical framework without religion.
And if we take the leftist view to its logical tail end, to its extreme view, you have low reproductive birth rates. You have a reproductive dead end, so two men together can't reproduce unless they have to take from a healthy straight couple. Religion provides this foundation where you do prioritize the nuclear family.
So do you have a problem with gay people being married?
It's not that I have a problem. I just don't see a justification for why they ought to be gay outside of it just feels good. Can you give me another justification for it?
Well, I think maybe that's the way they were born.
Okay, what about pedophiles? Are they born that way?
They may be, yeah.
Okay, so should we let a pedophile off the hook since they were born that way?
No, I think we as a society has decided...
Should implement duties to prevent them from acting on that innate urge, correct?
Well, I think between consenting adults, it's a different thing than...
Okay, so you're okay with a 45-year-old dad with a 19-year-old daughter as well? Incest?
No.
If they consent, you're okay with that?
No, I think society has also determined that it's not beneficial.
Right, there's duties and obligations that we have, so religion provides those duties. Life isn't about freedom and exercising what you want.
I mean, well, you want to impose your religious doctrine on me, and I don't want that.
You just admitted we need duties. We have responsibility as a society to keep us functioning, to keep us thriving. Your leftist view, the liberal view, doesn't provide anything besides it just makes me feel good. Religion does. So what's your argument?
Okay, how about this? Well, one, there's lots of religions that kind of say a lot of different things. Some things are moral in one religion, some things are not moral in another, and vice versa. But I would ask this guy, okay, what if all human religions are in fact not true? I'm not saying there's no higher power necessarily, but like let's say it's not some thing that like is actively watching humans and saying, okay, here's the morality that you need to do, ... Let's say the universe is what it is. Let's say humanity just happened to arise out of evolution via natural selection on one planet out of quadrillions in the known universe. And again, there just is no entity watching us and defining morality for us. For this thought experiment, let's assume that that is true. What do we do then? Is it just suddenly okay to murder people? Clearly not. Okay, I'm not even saying I have an answer. I'm just saying, like, come on. Clearly it's not okay to just murder people randomly, torture people randomly, assault children. Clearly it's not okay to do those things. And I'm not saying we can't define why. We can define why. Like, reasons why some things should be permissible and reasons why some things should not be permissible. I'm not saying we can't do that without a religious reason. But again, I would flip it and just be like, okay, let's assume that such an entity does not exist. Does that mean it's okay to just do whatever you want? Again, clearly not. And human morality has changed over the years. There were things that we used to do that we now deem to be inappropriate. There are probably things that we do now that 100 years from now we might deem that inappropriate that we were doing today. Anyway, I hate this type of shit. It's just silly.
What's my argument as to why I don't want your religion to... Well, because first of all, I don't think that you have the right to corner what God is telling us is right or wrong. And there are differences between religions. And so my argument is, like, you're not going to keep halal or kosher, right? I mean, I don't believe that someone has a corner on religious truth. And the reason why we have a democracy is because we didn't want a king. And the kings came from the idea that their God said that they're the ones who's supposed to be king. And so we can disagree on this. I don't want to live in a country that is ruled by religious fundamentalism. And
if I do, you have no issue with that.
And no. And this is why I say, under Trump, yes.
What is Buddy saying? That, like, just because something is a law, that means everyone agrees with it? No, there are some laws I agree with. Like, I agree with the law of not just murdering random people. I agree with that law. Do I agree with the law where trans people can't have the gender identity of their choice on their passport? No, I don't agree with that law, even though it's now the law. The majority of the people or whatever voted for it. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it.
You have won.
Yes.
You have a
Only
bunch of
male and
Christian.
female. You're right.
You have a Christian
You won.
nationalist,
Yes,
and
which is necessary.
So I concede the point that under Trump, your Christian nationalism has gained an advantage under this.
Sorry, we're going to have more kids. We're going to have less abortions. We're going to have more family. We're going to have stable family households. Sorry about better education.
People, gay people.
Shut the fuck up, you fucking moron.
People should be outlawed.
They should be straight. They should be
Women
straight.
should be secondary to their husbands.
Women should submit
right?
to the husbands.
Women
That doesn't
should
mean
submit to the
they are
husbands.
slaves.
Right,
It doesn't mean
I
it means they are protected.
understand. You
Okay,
gotta
let me ask you. Let me ask you.
No.
Should women be drafted? Should women be drafted?
Listen, I think
if they're equal, should they be drafted?
I think this is the vision that you have, and I think Trump supports it.
Yes.
I think the Christian nationalists he has throughout his government.
God, women should be submissive to... Oh my fucking God, dude. Bunch of fucking freaks.
Are all going to work towards your vision.
Yes.
And my hope is that when people look at this, they say, hey, wait a second. I don't want my life to be dictated by the notion of a Christian nationalist prescription. Now, you may win out. I mean, certainly, like if you look at a country like Iran, they have a theocracy there, and apparently that's good for them if they want it.
My final point is whenever
but I don't want to live in a
my final point is
theocracy.
whenever we see people live out Christian values to its full extent, we see a great society. When we see people deviate from that, that's where all the problems arise.
All right,
I think you are at home in the Trump.
Thank you very much.
You've been voted out. Please return to your seat.
Come on. Let other people have a chance. What the fuck?
I think I have an issue with the implications of the prompt, I mean, of course, I'll stick on the religious fundamentalism. I think it's unfair to view Christianity separated from the ideology that Christianity informs, right? You have an ideology that you vote upon because you view it to be the truth that benefits everyone in a society. That's how a democracy works. I, as a Christian, have an ideology that informs my opinions, and I believe that it is the most moral and correct way for a society to function. So I think if we put religious fundamentalism in a box where you say any moral implications that I draw from this, religion is unable to be voted upon, unable to be pushed onto you because simply it's a religion, is unfair to view it that way. Religion is an ideology like all ideologies are. It's you vote away.
I don't mind you. I don't dispute the idea that you could have a religious ideology and want to see it imposed upon others, and it's not inconsistent with my claim. My claim.
Look, in my opinion, you shouldn't impose anything on anyone. People should just believe what the evidence shows. That is my strong opinion in any context. All people should only believe in what is shown by evidence. If there is no evidence for something, you should not believe in it. I think for most of the topics that are discussed in regard to politics, there is a more true answer and less than true answers. It's not like pizza toppings where you can have your own opinion on a pizza topping. But in terms of is anthropogenic climate change happening? I think there is a discernible true answer to that and untrue answers to that question. Should gay people be allowed to exist and get married or whatever? I think there is a logical, reasonable answer that can be discerned, and then there are unreasonable answers to that question. I think the ability to understand what is a reasonable, logical answer to these questions and the ability to know what are unreasonable answers to these questions is a skill someone can learn. Critical thinking skills, information dissemination skills. These are muscles that are flexed by education. Hopefully decades of education. So no, I don't want to impose my beliefs on anyone. The only thing I want to impose on people are facts. And again, an education to where they can have the ability to understand what is factual, what is trustworthy, and what might not be.
The claim is that Donald Trump is ushering in an element of Christian theocracy that I can't remember his name, and you may be excited about, but I'm not excited about it. I don't think the vast majority of Americans are, but maybe I'm wrong. Right. I mean, I don't think this country was set up to be a theocracy, and I find it problematic that it will be, but others will be happy about it.
I think it's unfair as well to label any morals that comes from religion inherently immediately theocratic. Like, having a theocracy is something different than having...
I think love thy neighbor is a good precept, and I don't know that we should necessarily legislate it, but I think it's a good precept. Cool. I think there are things from religion that are good. Yeah. I interviewed Desmond Tutu years ago, who said that religion can be, is like a knife. It can be used to spread butter, or it could be used to stab people. Sure. But that doesn't mean that I want religious doctrine to be the same as the law of the land. We have a democracy, and it was founded on trying to get out from some type of religious oppression, which means one religion shouldn't dominate in this country. That's my...
Look, I mean, okay. Full disclosure, I'm pretty anti-religion. More specifically, I'm anti, like I said earlier, believing in things with no evidence. I think people should not be religious. I think being religious is a sign of a problem. I don't care if you're a liberal, a progressive, or a leftist, or a conservative. I think nobody should be religious. Not because it's necessarily harmful. You could have a religion that's take everything I believe, put it on a god, and say this is the new religion. I would still be against that. All I care about is evidence, the truth, and I do think that is how others should engage with the world around them as well. There is just no empirical evidence of any religion. And I'm not against a higher power. I'm totally open to there being a higher intelligence in existence somewhere. If you were to put a gun to my head and say, is there one or is there not? I would probably say there is one. Do I think it's personal? Do I think it's anything related to anything humans have ever believed in? No, not remotely. But I think superintelligence is possible. I think humanity is going to create superintelligence eventually. So I wouldn't be surprised if it is already out there somewhere in existence. That this observable universe, that these 13.6 billion years that the observable universe has been here is not the top layer of reality. Let's put it that way. I probably think it's not. There's no evidence for this. There's no way to test what I'm saying. It's just a hunch. I wouldn't base my life or other people's lives around this hunch. But the idea that there's some personal entity that sometimes comes to Earth and interacts with humans and tells them what to do, I think is beyond silly. Sorry, I don't mean to get all Reddit atheist on y'all. I'm sorry if what I'm saying is hurtful. I don't want to frame it as something that could come across that way. It's just my honest opinion. I know people's religious feelings and experiences can be very powerful to them. Growing up, I was very Christian, so I know what that feels like. So I'm not even, again, trying to make the argument that religion is harmful. That is a separate argument. That is a separate conversation I'm more than willing to have. We could watch this video. Maybe we'll watch this video. 1 atheist versus 25 Christians, and you will see just how much of a Reddit atheist I can fucking be. But even outside of any argument about religion being harmful, it's just not based in any empirical evidence. So in my opinion, we should not be basing anything on things with no empirical evidence, like I said. Oh, I'm just yapping. Let's go.
My sense.
Yeah, and I see that, but I think I have an issue with where you would perceive religious doctrine is derived from, right? A guy doesn't, at least in Christianity, a guy doesn't go in a room and come out and say that he has a secret message from God that everyone now has to follow. Religious doctrine is ruled over, it's reasoned over, the same way any ideology is discovered.
I'm not talking about the validity of religious doctrine. Right. I'm talking about religious doctrine supplanting democracy and civil society.
Well, and I'm saying that religious doctrine is democratic inherently, and in the way that you
Well, I mean, look, we can have a debate as to whether or not women should be subservient to men.
Right.
I don't think they should be,
right.
And in a democracy, I don't think it's healthy.
Right, but when you said earlier with him that someone shouldn't have I don't know the exact word, like a chokehold on what is, religious truth and what isn't religious truth. That's not how religious truth itself works, and that's not how religious truth is brought to the political table to have that work either, right?
I don't know. When Pete Hegseth is in a bar yelling, we're going to kill all Muslims.
Well, that's, yeah.
But now he's in charge of the largest military in the history of the world. And I think, and he is informed by his Christian nationalism. I think that's a problem.
Right. Well,
we can disagree on that.
Yeah, we don't Pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Thanks, Sam.
Return to your seat.
Every time something is starting to get good, they get voted out.
Okay, so Eleazar.
This guy again? There's like 20 people in this room, and we're a third of the way through this video, and we've heard from like 3 of them.
Mentioned his views on gay marriage, and I saw that you believe that essentially conservatives don't believe that gay marriage should be allowed. I want to ask everybody in this room, is there any law or legislation that Donald Trump has passed to prohibit same-sex marriage in the last 4 years? Okay. Is there anyone in here who would potentially oppose 2 people kissing in public that are of the same sex? You could raise your hand if you want. Yes, in public, kissing in public. No law against it, just your own opinion. Okay, so these are all people's opinions, right? The same way you have your...
Well, was Buddy expecting like a couple hands? They were like, "Oh, did you say kiss? Did you say gay people kissing in public?" Oh yeah, no. I think the point Buddy was trying to make about how conservatives aren't actually, against gay people. They just don't want them to blah, 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 groom children or whatever conspiracy they're talking about this week. No, it turns out many of them, if not most of them, are pretty much just against gay people existing. And I'm sorry if I'm being homophobic. This guy comes across as gay-coded, so I don't know if he's in, like, gay conservative communities more, where maybe they are more tolerant to gay people, but yeah, I mean, this guy's like, no, man. Your point did not work. We are actually against gay people, and we do not want you to display your affection for one another publicly. That's for us straight people only.
Your opinions about Christians is the same way these people are allowed.
No, I don't have a problem with Christians.
Well, you do not believe that theology should be at its
We should not have a theocracy.
Correct. And so what I'm saying is, I think that Christianity, I'm a Catholic, I think that Christianity is, fundamentally very important to instill family values in myself as well as every person who wants to have children. Now let's talk about...
I'm okay with that too.
Let's talk about Order 14,166. That is an executive order that Donald Trump just imposed on identifying what is male and female. So I personally believe, as well as many transsexuals, friends of mine, believe that a woman is a biological female, as well as a man being a biological male. You are assigned what you are at birth. You are not assigned your gender later on. what you choose to express is something that is similar to wearing a garment, similar to what you decide to put on your face. And I don't think there should be laws or legislations dictating people or imposing laws to manipulate children, for example, to castrate their bodies at such a young age.
What is he talking about, man? God, it is just incoherent babbling. Jesus Christ.
50% of children.
Do you know how many children are treated over the past 5 years, let's say? I think it was from 2018 to 22, there was a study that just came out from Harvard. Do you know how many children received gender-affirming care, but broken down into puberty blockers and then hormones?
Give me the numbers.
You tell me. I'm curious.
Well, I'm curious because you're bringing it up.
No, I have the numbers.
Okay, tell me.
I didn't, but I'm curious if you know.
Tell me what the numbers
are. I promise to tell you after you tell me what you think it is.
I'm not gonna play that game.
Because I have a feeling
We're not playing this game.
No, I am playing this game because I think you think it's much higher. When you tell me that kids are being castrated, I know you don't really know what these numbers are. And I do know these numbers.
Okay, well, I can tell you this much.
What?
It was reported that scientifically every single child who has received gender-affirming care, about roughly 50% of them regret it. And 50% of them are suicidal because of it. They're actually more depressed because of it.
Studies on this subject often suffer from researcher bias and methodological errors, including inadequate follow-up, imprecise measurement, and poorly chosen sample biases. Doctors agree more research is needed. Well, I mean, I did see this on Twitter. Now, this fact check is talking about, like, the studies that found something similar to what Buddy is talking about, which I think is just inaccurate. Yes, those specific studies about regretting gender-affirming care or whatever often do suffer from researcher bias and methodological errors. That is absolutely true. So if this fact check is talking about those studies that he just mentioned, that is true. We talked about this from my last video, but Cornell University did a systematic literature review of all peer-reviewed articles published in English between 1991 and June 2017 that assessed the effect of gender transition on transgender well-being. They identified 55 studies that consist of primary research on this topic of which 93% found that gender transition improves the overall well-being of transgender people, while 7% reported mixed or null findings. We found no studies concluding that gender transition causes overall harm. And so yeah, these studies were found to have had a lot of issues with their methodology. I want to rewind a little bit. Let's revisit this.
Being castrated, I know you don't really know what these numbers are. And I do know these numbers.
Okay, well, I can tell you this much.
What?
It was reported that scientifically every single child who has received gender-affirming care, about roughly 50% of them regret it. And 50% of them are suicidal because of it. They're actually more...
So he's saying 50% of people who received gender-affirming care as children regretted it? No, there's no evidence of this. Here's another systematic review and meta-analysis of regret after gender-affirming surgery. We talked about this in my last video as well, and the point is, the answer is either 1% or less than 1%. The light is still fucking flickering. Sorry about that. So no, he's just pulling out complete bullshit that San is not really properly fact-checking. And again, you could easily read this as like thinking that all studies on regret on trans people suffer from these issues, which is just patently untrue.
More depressed because of it.
How many of those kids? How many?
A psychologist,
How
by the
many
way.
over the course of 5 years?
Well, tell me.
You tell me. Just give me
I know
a
what you're trying to
ballpark.
do. You're trying to put me in this chokehold of like,
No, I'm
I
not trying
got
to
you
put you in a
moment.
No, this is definitely an I got you moment because I'm suggesting to you that you think this problem is much bigger than it is.
It is a huge problem.
Okay.
Medi-Cal covers inmate trans women.
I understand that, yes. And I know one person has had that surgery.
I don't understand how my taxes should go for an inmate prisoner who wants to transition.
Well, I think because we got to do health care.
Don't let him steer you away, Sam.
For prisoners, and you don't consider it real health care. But hold on, I don't want to get...
imposed
listen,
$2.6
it's
billion in
900 kids over 5 years.
That is a lot of children.
Puberty blockers.
That is a lot of children.
900 kids over 5 years.
AB 547 just passed, including gender identity to allow children to be separated from their parents just due to not affirming their gender identity.
But here's the point. Listen, Trump is, how is he hurting these people?
Data compiled by Reuters and the health technology company Komodo found that from 2017 to 2021, 4,780 adolescents started puberty blockers and had a gender dysphoria diagnosis. A new study from JMAA Pediatrics found that only 0.1% of young patients in the study were transgender and prescribed puberty blockers or hormone therapy. Okay, so why are you guys framing it in this way? Why are you talking about kids who needed puberty blockers for reasons other than gender dysphoria? This data compiled found that 4,780 had a gender dysphoria diagnosis, but a new study found that in this study, only 0.1% of them were trans? Am I missing something? Someone clarify this for me, because I just want to keep moving.
Well, he just rescinded the ability of the Labor Bureau to investigate discrimination in workplace. Are you for trans people being discriminated in workplace?
They're never being discriminated.
Are you for trans people being discriminated with
I'm
housing?
very passionate about that question, and can I answer it? Okay, so I believe that affirmative action should be...
It's not affirmative action.
Oh, then what is it?
It's anti-discrimination. It's
Okay,
not saying that you have to
regardless,
hire
hold on.
trans people.
Okay,
It's
well,
saying
hold on.
you can't fire someone when you find out they're trans.
Okay, well, hold on a minute. So when you hire someone, or when you interview someone, for example, you are supposed to interview them based on their knowledge and their work ethic, not based on sex.
I'm not saying affirmative
not based
action.
on their sexual
Are you
orientation.
allowed to fire them if you find out they're trans?
If you need to, then you should. If you need to, then
Right,
you should.
so we have a disagreement. I don't believe people should be discriminated against.
Pause.
And that's not discrimination. It's based on your knowledge, not what you sleep with, not who you sleep with. Just saying.
Sam.
So I actually think that this liberal world order needs to be thrown away completely, and I think Christian nationalism would be a good alternative. What we're seeing right now is
And
just
congratulations.
Yeah, and thank you. And yeah, I think
Fucking ew, dude. Yeah, right on. Horrible shit. Yeah. Awful shit. Fuck yeah. We are so fucking cooked, man.
what we're seeing right now is a culture of death. This is the most suicidal generation ever. We have millions of children dying by abortion. People aren't even reproducing. We don't even have like a...
Should we mandate people
I almost fucking died there.
reproduce?
No, I don't think we need to mandate. We can just stop them from killing their kids.
So you want to outlaw abortion?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, we have a fundamental disagreement on this, and my claim was that if you voted for Trump, it would be to your benefit if you want to outlaw abortion.
I think it would benefit everyone.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that that women should have the right to choose.
I think that it would benefit everyone to bring back the family unit, to stop having women just thrown into the workforce.
Maybe we shouldn't allow women to choose to divorce unless their husbands say it's okay.
I mean, I don't really believe in divorce in general, so like, sure.
All right. I mean, this I think though reinforces my point that that if you are
But it would be better.
Why? Of like everything, even being anti-gay and anti-trans, being anti-divorce, like you're in an unhappy relationship, like I don't fucking know.
Better for society. It would be better for everybody in society. And same with xenophobic like what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Don't you think that's better for Americans in general? Like
xenophobic nationalism is better?
We should have a coherent culture. Everyone should be a part of the same culture. We should have assimilation.
Which, do you get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture.
What is
based
the dominant
on European
culture?
and Christian values and identity. That is a dominant culture.
White
It's
Christian-
rooted in European identity.
White. So your argument is that
That has been the
it's-
dominant culture.
Just to be
and
clear,
we're not letting people assimilate to that. We're saying you should keep your culture, and this is why our culture is so divided.
your argument is that Trump is good for those who want a dominant white.
I don't know what to say anymore, man. All I'll say is this does not lead to anything good. I've used this analogy before, but like we are on the Titanic as it's sinking. It's about 20 minutes, 30 minutes into the 2 hour and 20 minute long sinking process. Many of us are in denial. Many of us are not as scared as we need to be. There are not enough lifeboats for all of us, and we are heading toward a very, very scary disaster, I think. I think shit is going to get really, really bad.
European culture.
I mean, that is what America is. It's rooted in European identity and Christian values. That's what it has been. Would you really disagree with that? What is it then, if that's not the identity of America?
Well, I think the identity of
For the
America...
majority of time, America's been a country. You don't think that's been the identity?
Well, actually, no. I think actually the identity of America has been, for better or for worse, a melting pot in that regard.
Yeah, maybe since like the 1960s. Even then, even we had this idea of a melting pot literally means assimilation too. It means melting. It means you're assimilating to the dominant culture. Is that not what melting means?
No, it doesn't
and now
mean
instead we're saying there's something wrong with
to the dominant
xenophobia.
Culture. No. I mean, look, I got to be honest with you. You and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. It's a choice. And people, I think what you're expressing, though, is really what the Trump movement at its heart is about. And I think that's problematic.
I disagree. I don't think Trump's anywhere close to being a Christian nationalist. That's ridiculous. Trump's basically a Democrat from 15 years ago when it comes to social
You don't think that he's conservative enough for you?
Oh, definitely. Nowhere close. No.
He's not.
One, open the schools. Two, we are fucked.
Not xenophobic enough for you?
No, he's trying to pour a bunch of H-1Bs. Are you kidding?
Right. Oh, so you want to get them out too? Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're making my argument for me.
All right.
Well,
okay.
I'm just saying he's not even in this. Okay.
My next claim is
Trump is a Democrat from 15 years ago when it comes to social issues. I'm not using this lightly, but she basically just admitted to being a fucking Nazi. Sarah Stock of Vigilant News. Slovak government official claims DNA in vaccines turn people into GMOs. Sparks global outrage. We are not corn. Stay informed, folks. Healthcare the Patriot way, because who has time for mainstream BS? PatriotRx.com, discreet men's telehealth solutions and essential emergency kits, empowering health with treatments for testosterone, weight loss, and longevity built on freedom and integrity. I know this is AI slop, but I kind of love this image. Potentially game-changing substance makes flu vaccine irrelevant? A groundbreaking study has emerged that demands our attention, folks. A game-changing substance. Holy cow, literally. There's a half of a needle in this vial. 12 ancient remedies better than drugs. These grandma-approved remedies were passed down through the ages because they actually work. This is the most boomer shit I've ever seen. Oh my god, dude. Oh my god. What? Is H5N1 in your beef? What to know before your next meal? But the push to vaccinate dairy cattle against H5N1 is moving full steam ahead. Are they pro-vaccinating beef? But not your kids? I don't care. I will eat the meat regardless. Vaccinating. I don't even want to read some of these out loud because I think it's going to get my video flagged. And it's not in your milk either unless you don't pasteurize it. Oh wait, is this guy pro-pasteurizing your milk then? I don't know what to say, man. These people truly live in a completely different universe. Anyway, so that's who this person works for. Maybe if we give the illegal immigrants some Palestine flags, Trump will actually deport them. We voted for mass deportations, and we're hardly getting any. By the end of this term, hardly anyone will be deported. And then the Dems are going to win again and let millions more into the country. Trump is helping to destroy America by doing nothing. That needs to change. That's insane. Irish and Italian Catholics were always legally considered white? Why is she tweeting this? Oh no, he called me the N-word Nazi? Yo, Anthony Fantano. Why am I not following him? You're literally the fucking idiot Nazi from the Jubilee video? Yeah, Hitler particles are definitely, Nazi is the N-word for white people. 12K likes, dude. We're so fucking cooked. And again, just like hearing her talk, she sounds like a fucking dumbass. I think a lot of these people are just fucking dumb. I get a lot of flack for saying this, but I think it's true. I think a lot of the sentiment comes from just being fucking dumb.
GOP will destroy Social Security and healthcare.
Well, they're certainly going to try. Finally, someone new. I guess that other woman was new.
What if Social Security should go away? That's my question to you.
Wait, is he new? All these people look the same to me. Okay, all you white people look the same to me, all right? No, I'm pretty sure he was on earlier, right? Or am I fucking crazy? Yeah, there he is, okay.
Because Social Security keeps 2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. And not only does it keep our elderly out of poverty, it's essentially a social insurance program that protects you if at the end of your life you don't have enough money to survive.
For right now, do you know that it's also the albatross around our generation's neck?
No, it isn't.
Okay, so
let me just explain this.
Well, you're going to go back to lecturing me about Social Security.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, Social Security is one of the top 3 funded.
Social Security is almost the biggest thing that our government does.
Exactly, and we are more than $30 trillion in debt.
Well, first of all, Social Security cannot contribute legally to the deficit.
Because they don't even account it in the federal deficit every year.
That's correct.
We have
because
30
it's
years worth
self-funding. When Social Security started in 1936, you have more workers than retirees because people haven't entered into retirement.
Social Security is funded through a dedicated payroll tax paid by both employers and employees. However, trust fund reserves are expected to run out by 2035, which will lead to a decrease in benefits.
By 1970, it was at 3.5 to 1. Now it's at 2.5 to 1. But productivity has increased during that time, so the amount of money paid into Social Security has been up there. The reason why we are running out of money just for the trust fund, not for Social Security, like I say, if we do nothing with Social Security now, it is statutorily unable to contribute to the debt. The math is right there. The reason why the trust fund is running out is because wealth inequality has hoarded so much money above the cap.
They did not have that long enough for anyone to read. In 1940, the ratio of covered workers to covered retirees was 159 to 1. Since 2010, the ratio has been below 3 to 1.
Above the cap.
You don't think it's because the government does a terrible job managing their money? They have a huge...
No, stop fucking nodding. You absolute fucking imbecile. You do not know shit. You just heard the government is bad at managing fucking money. Shut the fuck up, you fucking morons. Let's let Sam hopefully explain this.
Spending problem, and they go, look at all this money we have for Social Security that's earmarked for 60 years from now that we're just going to spend on something right now.
40 years ago, they predicted this. This is an actuarial table. Accountants sit there and look at it. This is a very easy math problem.
Accountants in the government are always right? That's totally the thing that you're...
Oh, shut the flying fuck up. God. A lot of these people's just starting point is, well, since it's related to something the government is doing, it must be inherently bad. He is not providing anything other than, well, it's related to the government, so it must be bad. Sam is like, well, simple math is telling us this. And this guy's like, well, was the mathematician someone who worked for the government? Then it has to be fake. Then it has to be incorrect.
You're saying? That they're always correct about money, right? That's why we have a $40 trillion debt problem.
The problem isn't the math with the $40 trillion debt problem. It's
the spending problem. I totally agree with you, which I would argue is part of why Social Security's gone in the hole already.
That's simply not true.
Oh, okay. So we're out of money from the Social Security bucket.
No.
Let Sam talk, dude. Jesus fucking Christ.
Statutorily, by that I mean by law, Social Security pays for itself. If we do nothing, the 6.2% that your employer and your employee pays into it will pay out 78% of benefits starting in 2033.
And why is it going down? If everything's so much better, why is it only 78%?
If we raise the cap, there's a cap right now at $176,000.
Employers and employees each pay 6.2% a year on up to $176,000 in income. Self-employed workers pay 12.4%.
So, for instance, if you make $100,000, you pay $6,200 into that
a year.
A year. But if you make $4 million, do you know how much money you pay into Social Security?
less than that.
$6,200.
And so why should wealthy
sh-
people, hang on, why should wealthy people pay a higher percentage?
No, they should pay the same percentage. 6.2 on $400,000, 6.2 on $1 million.
And why should they pay even more money at all?
Because
they make more money? Again, you fundamentally have this idea that because somebody, you have an idea that because somebody makes more money, that's fundamentally wrong, right?
No, I don't think it's fundamentally wrong. I think that we should pay more taxes into it. Now, I do think as a society, we should not allow billionaires. So for instance,
they can pay more taxes generally,
but
why should
the highest tax rate was and the greatest expansion of our economy in this country?
Does a billionaire get more money from Social Security if they went to go take it than I would?
No,
of course not. So why should they pay more?
I'll tell you what. Because
because it fucking makes society better. Conservatives love it when millionaires and billionaires do charity. It'll be like Jeff Bezos gives money to charity. Why do we like it when billionaires do charity, but not when billionaires pay more in taxes?
It is a social insurance program that keeps you from being in poverty when you're a senior. And the reason why I think billionaires should pay more taxes than other people, even a higher percentage, is because it works better for society.
Exactly, dude. It makes society better. It's just that simple. Yes, the billionaires could hoard all of their money. Yes. Okay. Let's do a really, really simple example. Okay. Let's go back to ethics and morality. Let's say a virus breaks out and it's killing millions of people every day. Let's say I discover the cure and I use it for myself and my friends only. What is more ethical? Should people get together and vote to say, we all think that you should give that cure to everyone? Let's say it wouldn't be too hard to replicate and distribute. We'll save millions of lives if we do that. Who is in the right here? The person who did invent this cure and, it's their cure, they invented it. But again, let's say millions of people are dying every day, horrific amounts of suffering, a really, really deadly, horrific disease. Who is in the right? The people who want that person to relinquish that cure, or the person who made that cure and it's their cure? In my opinion, the people who are moral are the people who are like, no, we think you should relinquish that. And the person who is immoral is the person going, no, I'm going to keep it just for myself and my friends. So let's extrapolate this to the real world. Right now, there is a virus. It's called poverty. There is a cure to this virus. It is called money. If more people had more money, there would be less poverty. And it's not that Americans aren't working. I think the unemployment number right now is 4%. The vast majority of American adults are working. They're just not getting paid enough. They're needing to use that money on things like healthcare. Now, if instead we took some of that money that the billionaires have, put it into, again, taxed it progressively. I don't mean ideologically progressively, but a progressive tax rate where the more you have, the more you pay. And let's fund a universal healthcare system. And anyone earning under a certain amount, we can determine under, 40K, 50K, 100K. Doesn't have to pay a dime into it. I'm just spitballing, okay? Don't take these exact numbers to be exact. Suddenly, those people don't have to pay for healthcare anymore. They have more money to spend on, the economy. They can travel, they can save, they just have more money now. And yes, the billionaire now has less money, but they're still a billionaire. They still have enough money to never have to work again or never have to worry about anything happening to them. They can buy whatever they want, they can do whatever they want, but society is better as a whole. One, people have healthcare. People who need it have healthcare. They now have more money to spend, and the economy does better if you want to look at it from that perspective. Morally, these billionaires should be giving away more of their money. That would be the moral thing for them to do. They could help a lot of people with that money. They're choosing not to do it. So I think we as a society could and should say, we should actually be using that money to do good things, to be helping people. If they're not going to do it on their own, which they won't, we need to say no. That money should be used to make society better.
The greatest expansion we've had in this country in terms of economics and the least amount of wealth disparity was in the 40s and 50s and 60s in this country. Do you know what the top marginal rate was?
It was high.
Do you know what it
I don't
was?
know the exact number, but
if you made over $470,000 in 1955, every dollar you would make above that was taxed at 90%.
So I have a question.
90 cents on every dollar was taxed above 470. So if we had today's dollars,
which is wild, by the way. But
and it's also the greatest expansion we had of the economy.
Yeah, in 1955, individuals making more than $200,000 to $2.4 million today, or married couples with an income of more than $400,000, $4.8 million today, were taxed at 91% at the highest tax bracket.
You can expand for a time, and then you see places, you see Nordic countries that were let's tax the hell out of our rich people, right? And then they go, whoops, we messed up. We can't actually live off of our terrible, we basically are able to live off our economic boom that they had between like the 40s and the 90s. And then we have to revert all of that because we made a terrible choice. We were able to have a party for 50 years until we realized we ran through all the money that capitalism got us. So let me ask you real quick. So the average person, right? Right now they
where's the
fundamentally
fact
look
check
at Social
on that
Security, young people
bullshit?
like me, and they go, I'm going to have that money sitting, waiting for me when I retire. Since your opinion is whatever works best for the average person is better, wouldn't you rather shift towards something that I would agree with, which is getting people that are 19, 20 years old into funding their own retirement rather than relying on other people to fund it for
You're
them?
talking like a 401k.
Sure. Well, not just the 401k, but for IRAs, any other type of retirement. Would you agree? Would we agree with that?
Social Security was set up as part of a three-legged stool where back in the day when I was a kid, we had defined benefit pensions where you know how much money you would get out. Yeah. That all shifted in the 80s to defined contribution where you know how much you put in. The 401k started during that Reagan era. It has been a disaster because the fact of the matter, for better or for worse, people just don't save in the way that you're talking about.
Why?
It would be nice if,
if the
because
government...
things are...
I think Sam is, it's like me, Sam is like me from the future. Like literally everything I think about, like in the back of my head, he is saying. It's like, yeah, I mean, yes, it looks like Americans aren't saving in the way they should. And I do think, you know, it's a problem. So I think we just take that burden away from people and just say, look, you never have to worry about healthcare. You never have to worry about housing. Food is subsidized. You have Social Security to where when it's time to retire, you won't fucking starve. And every penny you earn otherwise, spend it. Do whatever you want with it. Have fun. You don't need to save it because we have a robust social safety net, a floor that you cannot go lower, a floor that will not be, a floor that is not poverty. Right now, the floor is extreme poverty in America. If you don't save right, if you're not good with your money, if you had shitty parents who taught you shitty things, your floor is homelessness. Your floor is extreme poverty, starvation, what have you. The floor should be a decent life for everyone, paid through taxes. I know leftists are going to be like, blah, 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 this is still capitalism. Yes, fine. I'm of the opinion of let's start with social democracy, okay? We can examine it after that if we need to go further. Let's start with basic social democratic policies that will just help some people in this fucking country, okay? I'm down to keep moving beyond that. I am. Let's start with a basic social democratic safety net. Again, a floor that you cannot break through, paid by a progressive tax rate. Again, not ideologically progressive. It is ideologically progressive, but that's not where that term comes from. A floor where you cannot, no one in America can be in poverty. And again, if it gets to a point where suddenly, like, you know, a person who would have been a billionaire is now, like, destitute, then we've got other problems to consider. But in this system that I'm describing, like, this is what's going to piss the leftists off. They're still billionaires. We can do exactly what I'm saying, and there can still be filthy fucking rich people. I'm not even saying we have to take away all of their money and or anything like that and to do this. We could make it so every American has access to food, housing, and healthcare. We could do this. We could do this for the fucking planet. I mean, we could. To put it into perspective, we could end world hunger with like a third or like a quarter. I'm forgetting what the numbers are. The budget changes, the number changes. The number of the United States military budget changes year over year. So I don't know if it's a third or a quarter, but we could pay for world hunger, ending world hunger for like a third or a quarter of the United States military budget alone. World hunger. Done. The thing you like imagine as a child. What would you do? What would you wish for, little Timmy? Well, I would end world hunger. Well, America could fucking do it with a fraction of its military spending alone. And yes, the world would be a better place if we ended world hunger. Much better than using that money to instead fucking bomb people. And America would be a better place too if you didn't have to worry about falling into poverty. If you just didn't save money well enough. Because again, like Sam is saying, the fucking reality is some people will do that. And the way shit's going right now, it is harder to save. We have to spend that money just to fucking live. So tax millionaires, tax billionaires, create that floor, create that social safety net, that floor that I'm describing. It'll make society better. It'll make America better. That's what we need. Neither Democrats want this. Republicans obviously don't want this. But I think that's what Sam is getting at here. And it's just that, yeah, some people, a lot of people just aren't going to do that. The system is not easy and people won't do it. So let's work together. Let's treat each other right.
If the government were changing the mindset and actually pushing that cultural shift towards, we're not just going to hand you money when you're 65. You have to plan for it right now.
Experiment with that.
You have to plan for it right now. It's like, and what if you don't? What if you had parents who didn't teach you to do that? You see, this guy's saying like the government needs to like instill that in people. That's the government's job is to instill. You have to start saving some percentage, some vague percentage of your paycheck. That's more complicated and way sillier than just having a robust social safety net.
The government affecting the cultural mindset, and it failed.
We've had a 40-year experiment of everybody. You know what my parents say? Do you know what?
Sam is spitting so fucking hard, dude.
And parents say, they go, well, I'm just waiting for my social security check to come in, rather than I have $800,000 waiting for me because I thought about it when I was 19 and 20 because I didn't have this grab bag of money waiting for me. You're assuming that...
Dude, this grab bag of money? God. No, I think when you're 18 and 20, you should have spending money. We're talking about like the same thing. I'm just saying let's make it easy on people. And if you mess up, you are fucked. That's what this guy's advocating for. Ugh.
You're assuming that young people
I try and tell my kids.
So we agree. We should get rid of Social Security and phase it out.
No, shut the fuck up, you dumb piece of shit. Jesus Christ, dude.
Well, so we should phase out. So how would you listen to this idea?
Let him fucking talk, you dumb fuck.
Yeah. You phase out Social Security to where people who have 5 years left before they retire get 100% of the benefits. And then people like me who have 40 years until we retire,
dude,
I'm not going to get it. I'm going to get screwed either way.
No,
you
you're
really think I'm going to get Social Security someday?
I guarantee you, at the very least, you're going to get 78% of your benefits.
That's
if
awesome.
I'll
get $9,000 a year. That's great.
In calling for our government to increase the cap, in fact, get rid of the cap, then your grandkids will get Social Security.
I would much rather, and again, maybe we'll just disagree, but I would much rather result to, hey, 20-year-olds, please save for your own retirement, invest for your own retirement, because the government is bad at dealing.
Oh, fuck you. Also, people are bad at this shit. God, that's what we've been doing. And I know Sam just made this point, but people say like socialists and leftists are idealistic. This idea that you can just have the government just like instill perfect propaganda for 19 and 20-year-olds to start saving their money, like it's so fucking stupid. My brain cells are blowing out their own little brains out, their nuclei, whatever.
With money.
And what happens
don't rely
if they
on
don't?
them. What happens if what?
What happens if those 20-year-olds don't listen to you?
The same thing that happens if a 20-year-old just doesn't go and get a job because I tell them to.
No.
They're going to have a problem, but that's not my fault.
I got news for you. It's not your fault.
Dude! Some people are born into shitty circumstances. Some people have shitty parents. Some people are born in shitty zip codes. These people think like everyone's spawn point is the same. God, dude. If conservatives could think, everything would be better. I don't know what to say. Also, this guy's like my doppelganger with like a better beard and better hair.
But there used to be in New York City 30,000 people sleeping on the Bowery.
No one in this room was alive before Social Security. We've all lived under this, just like the
and it
income
has been the most successful government program in the history of our government.
Things that are successful don't just start to die out and end up in the.
It's not dying out.
It's the grab bag of money, the massive excess that was there.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Yeah, man. Shitty right-wing policies and austerity kill good things. Yeah. That's been the story of the last few decades. Incredible observation.
early years because of the 42 to 1 benefit.
It wasn't a massive excess in 1936.
42 to 1
Dude,
is
that was
a
just
massive
because
excess.
There weren't that many people who had entered into the Social Security program.
And the fact that
in 1970 it was 3.5 workers to 1. Now it's 2.5, but productivity has increased it. I've told you why the Social Security Trust Fund is running out. It is because of wealth disparity. Billionaires hiding and hoarding their money above the cutoff line, which is 176,000. That's the cap. If you remove the cap, your grandkids
billionaires aren't keeping $2 billion under their mattress. They're investing it back in.
They're just putting it in.
Oh my God. Oh my God. This is the other just like disconnect from reality that just conservatives live under. This myth that billionaires are properly investing this money that they're getting. No. The money, their billions, is not trickling down. Not even a little bit. Of course they hoard it. Of course they hoard it, dude. What are you talking about? Like, okay, in the broadest of terms, billionaires store their assets in things like stocks and real estate and their companies, which is, you know, kind of investing, but these investments benefit themselves. They increase their wealth rather than, you know, in any capacity redistributing it. So it's like, ultimately, it benefits them, is what I'm trying to say. Even their investing is still for the purpose of wealth concentration rather than, you know, economic, like, putting that money into the economy, like economic circulation, where if we give that money to normal people in the form of, again, just not having to worry about paying for your rent or paying for your health care, you suddenly have more money to actually spend on things in the economy. That's what billionaires are not really doing. So I would argue that, yes, this is still hoarding. That wealth accumulation, like, it doesn't trickle down
into some stock market, or they're just looking around.
And what do you think a 401k or an IRA relies upon? It relies on the stock market and things like that.
Yeah, a 401k relies on the stock market, and I knew people who were retiring in 2008 when the stock market tanked, and they got screwed.
Well, that's a whole other problem. I would argue that's largely driven by the government being, once again, terrible with policy and creating bad economic hazards.
Social Security is there regardless of what happens with the stock market.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Micah?
Whoa.
Sam,
There's an idea that you have that basically government can kind of fix all these problems, right? If you didn't say
it's not government. We need to just stop using that word. People working together fixes these fucking problems. The government is just an arm for us to do that. It's a mechanism. Everything these people hate about the government is due to conservatives and centrists actively sabotaging these initiatives. They force us to where the best we can do is a half measure, is a quarter measure. And it's intentional. There is a literal name for it.
Say for retirement, well then the government can just come in, swoop in, and save you from that.
Well, not swoop in. It starts on literally the day you get your Social Security.
Sure. It swoops in once you retire, right? Once you can.
Well, you pay
once
into
you can,
it.
Right, exactly. And so you believe this idea, basically, that government is an effective organization, which just time and time again, if you look at history, that's proven to not be true.
When you're hitting at retirement, you don't know. This is an insurance program. That's it. It's an insurance program, and it basically says you're insured against eating cat food when you're 65, and it works. It works.
No, it doesn't. You should have, well, one, you should have your own personal.
How doesn't it work?
How doesn't it work?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've already discussed the details of how it is just completely failing as a program. Like,
well, how is it failing?
Because I'm not going to receive any Social Security
I've already
benefits.
told you right now.
I know. I'm not going to rehash out that debate.
Well,
let him talk. My fucking word, dude.
Don't look at the numbers. You've just been told this, and you know why you've been told it? It's because they want to raid it to give tax cuts to rich people. That's why.
Yes, you fucking moron. You fucking absolute fucking moron. God, they are shooting themselves in the foot, and the fucking billionaires are giving them the gun, and they're shooting us in the fucking foot too. So sad. If you think anyone but the already ultra rich are going to benefit from these austerity measures, you're insane. God.
So are you saying there are the Trump tax cuts were only for rich people? You're saying
No, I'm not saying they're only for rich people.
Oh, okay. Then how could
rich
they
people
only
benefited more from?
Yes, they overwhelmingly benefited the rich. All of these tax cuts and deregulatory measures overwhelmingly benefit the rich. The money ordinary Americans get is marginal. The things that are being cut to fund these tax cuts are actually things that help these people.
From it than low-income people. And I would
And what do you mean benefited more from that? Because we already went over the percentage
they
numbers
don't
and we
need
know
the
that's
money.
not true.
They don't need the money as much, and they don't need it.
What are you talking about? These rich people are the people that are investing in smaller businesses. These are the people that are giving other people.
Oh my God. Is this the myth? If we can prove that the rich people are actually hoarding their money, if we could prove that, would that shatter the modern conservative movement? It wouldn't. There's so much to it. But this incredible myth that the rich are doing anything but hoarding this money to personally enrich themselves does feel like a major crux of the way these people think. God, the cucking people do for billionaires drives me nuts beyond anything else. Holy shit, dude.
Jobs to allow them to provide for their family.
Okay,
Listen,
pause.
God, dude.
What's up? Hey. Good to be back.
Nice to see you.
Okay, yeah, nice to see you too. I want to zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
So obviously you're pinpointing on Social Security, and there's a reason for that.
And healthcare too.
Oh, okay. But Social Security is the program that you're very concerned about, and that. or like
Medicare. I'd love a Medicare for all program, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the reason you're focusing in on Social Security precisely is because Social Security is the most successful in a shadow of social welfare programs and government spending. That it's like the Democrats.
It's also the biggest bucket
sure,
of money.
It is the biggest
government.
bucket, but the Democrats have these social programs and this deficit spending, and it's just never ends. It's never enough money. So you're focusing on Social Security because it is the one successful child, but you're ignoring all the social welfare state that we've become.
Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid make up over like a
right. So
70%
of our federal spending is mandatory. And that, you're right. It's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, interest on debt, 8%.
According to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, 61% of spending is mandatory and 30% is on interest payments for a total of 74%.
And we're paying for that. So the Democrats run on this, essentially they want a welfare state. So yes, Social Security might help a lot of people, but it's like we're closer to a welfare state than we've ever been. 38% of the GDP in the US is government spending. That's the highest since World War II. So us conservatives, we're trying to tell you, like, you guys are fiscally.
According to the Treasury Department, government spending is equal to 23% of U.S. gross domestic product in 2024. In World War II, it peaked at 40%. The most recent peak was 31% of GDP in 2020 at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Really,
so are you worried about the tax cuts and what that does to the debt and deficit?
The tax cuts increased revenue.
No.
Yes.
I want to tell you about Kansas.
Okay, tell me about Kansas.
Sam Brown back in 2012 brought in Arthur Laffer. You know the Laffer curve, right? That's the argument that if you cut taxes, you're going to get more revenue. It destroyed Kansas.
No, that's exactly what happened.
Kansas enacted tax and spending cuts in 2012 and 2013. Brownback argued that this fiscal potion would generate an explosion of economic growth, but overall growth and job creation in Kansas underperformed both the national economy and neighboring states.
It destroyed Kansas. By 2016, the Republican legislature raised taxes again. They destroyed their education system.
Reality is against you, my friend.
Look up Kansas.
The numbers
during
say
the Trump administration, they sent Sam Brown back. They made him the...
Is like brown-haired Mr. Beast here trying to say Kansas is this like incredible place to live? Sorry, Kansans, but I mean, you're a red state, and most red states are not doing great.
Ambassador to faith, because they didn't want this guy around because it was a disaster.
If you want to tax the rich, you should vote Republican, because they pay more in taxes under Republican. It was the same as Reagan. It was the same as Trump.
Look at Kansas.
Look at the U.S. We have the numbers
it
for
was
this.
the perfect...
You want to tax the rich and vote for Republicans is maybe the funniest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Obama's best year, federal income revenue, is pales in comparison to Trump's worst year. Do you get what I'm saying? Does more taxes necessarily equate to more revenue?
Yes.
No, that's where you're wrong. So if you look at TCJA, and I'll say the numbers again, the top 1%.
How? How?
Paid more into the system. GDP grew, wages grew 3% year over year under TCJA. So when you're saying tax the rich, like it sounds like you're actually a Republican. You just don't know it yet.
You're confusing causation with correlation because Obama's economic recovery was way too slow, and I agree with you on that.
Way too slow.
Way too slow.
When you have tons of stimulus, what you're doing is you're creating the Great Depression for the bottom 90%. All the assets inflate. So who does that benefit? Your policies benefit the 1%. Inflation disproportionately benefits the 1%. It's an immoral tax on the poor. And that's exactly what happens when they stimulate.
Inflation was not a function of monetary stimulus.
It absolutely was. They increased the money supply by $6 trillion.
I understand they did that.
Why is is the only conservative tenant, literally the only one, is to just be factually incorrect about everything? Is that what it is? Is there like a chip installed in your brain if you're a conservative that is just you need to be incorrect about literally everything? You cannot have a single correct statement ever. My Lord.
I understand they did that, and they could pull it back on taxes with the wealthy if they wanted to. You're making an argument for higher taxation.
Okay, do you think taxing people makes the country wealthier? Is that what you think?
Does it make the country wealthier?
Do taxes make us wealthy? Is that government increasing taxes? Are we now more wealthy? Do you think that
increasing taxes on the rich is a form of wealth redistribution? It's like what I just said. If we used the money the rich are currently hoarding to fund a universal healthcare system, now the bottom 90% of Americans don't have to put their money into healthcare spending. They suddenly have more money to spend on other things. In 2023, the average annual health insurance premium for single coverage was $8,435. In family coverage, it was $23,968. Now imagine if the average American family had all or most of this money back. The rich are still rich. They're still billionaires. But Americans have life-changing amounts of money every year to spend on things that they want to spend it on. Stimulate the economy too.
The only way you create wealth is by producing.
If you tax and spend, government stimulus can, yes, increase GDP, of course.
Is GDP wealth?
Is GDP wealth?
If we import 10 million immigrants and our GDP goes up, are we now wealthier? If the housing costs more, if CPI goes up because there's more people?
No, I understand. Inflation is under control, and we haven't pulled that money off the table.
Right, but I'm just saying that
inflation is back down because we had a problem.
The welfare state makes us all poorer. Yes, it does, and you can see it doesn't. Across history.
If you compare,
people want to come here for economic opportunity. We don't want handouts. We want opportunity. That's why, as an immigrant, that's why my family came here. We left the socialist paradise. It's garbage. The people that come here want economic opportunity, and you're.
These absolute fucking morons, dude.
Stifling that. You're undermining capitalism and the free markets with your utopian vision.
There is no free markets.
There's not.
You people are the ones with this bizarre utopian vision, okay? And yes, we should absolutely undermine free markets. Have you heard of child labor laws? These undermine free markets. Slavery being illegal undermines free markets. We should be doing a lot more to undermine free markets. And I'm not against markets. I don't like labels, but I have gotten comments from people who have heard me talk about the things that, I think about the things that I believe, and they're like, hey, you sound like a market socialist. There is something called market socialism. I don't think markets are necessarily inherently a bad thing. I do think markets can have their place. I think they have their uses. I am not anti-market. I am anti-free market. Market socialism is real, folks. We can take the usefulness and efficiencies of the positives of market systems and not have the negatives of free market systems, the exploitative aspects of free market systems.
Not anymore.
No, there's never
there used to be.
No.
That is what makes America the greatest. That's what makes America is the greatest economy in the world because of the free market. Free market capitalism is the most ethical and moral.
America had was when we had 90% tax.
That's not true. The numbers are against you.
1940, 1950, 1960, the highest top marginal tax rate was 90%, and we
when
had.
Milton Friedman predicted stagflation in the 70s with your social welfare.
We had OPEC.
When
we had
your welfare
oil shock that drove inflation.
Let him talk. Let him fucking talk.
Inflation way up, and that was a function of OPEC. But in the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s, highest top marginal tax rate was 90%. We had wealth inequality shrink. We had something called the Great Compression, and more people enjoyed.
World War II industrial revolution. We were producing more than every other country. It's because we were producing more than every other country. That's what creates wealth.
And
production.
we were doing that with a 90% tax rate on the wealthiest individuals.
Which was less when Reagan came in and brought it down. The top 1% paid more. Can you believe that?
No.
Do you know that federal income tax? Wait. You know federal income tax? It was when it was established.
You're talking about the Laffer curve, and I'm telling you to go look at
here's my last claim.
Kansas.
Federal income tax in 1913, when it was established, was only targeted at the people making.
They should be shooting out sand fact checks every 30 seconds to completely dismantle everything that this dumb fuck is trying to say and back up the truth that Sam is spitting.
100,000 and over. Now, most people don't even know that. It's just a base tax. Why? Because the projections that they had of taxing the rich didn't work out like they thought. Because it doesn't work out. There's a ton of loopholes. The rich are smart. Like, the rich people are smart. So focus on
producing. Our top marginal rate still produced an effective tax rate that is double what it is today. 50% effective tax rate.
Does not create more wealth.
Yes.
More taxes
Well, I don't know what you mean by wealth.
He is not responding to anything Sam is saying, dude.
I mean,
wealth is very simple. It's production of goods and services.
More
That's
taxes.
What wealth is. That's
more
what creates
taxes.
Wealth. Money. People think money is
more
wealth.
Taxes
money buys wealth.
Creates
money
less wealth inequality, and then you have wealth that is shared by more people rather than being in the hands of a plutocracy or a plutonomy. And then you get stuff like an oligarchy.
We've seen what happens when you punish your top producers over and over again. They leave. They stop producing. The government,
capital flight's a myth.
No, it isn't. You cripple the economy. Guess what?
It is a myth. I've gone through it in so many videos at this point that I'm not going to do a full breakdown again. But capital flight is 100% a myth. Sam is 100% correct.
What happens next?
Wait. When did this happen in the country? When we had a 90% tax rate?
It happens in every socialist country. This is the socialist playbook. They come in and they're like, guys.
This is not a socialist country, and I'm not calling for socialism to have higher tax rates.
It is more socialist than ever before. We have more social welfare spending.
No.
GDP. I'll say it again. 38% of government spending of GDP is government spending. We have more social welfare programs.
In 2024, the U.S. government spending was estimated to be 38% of the GDP. However, welfare accounts for about 7% of government spending, excluding health insurance.
Look at what happens. But how come we have all these programs and the black community is still living in poverty?
What programs are you talking about that are geared towards the black community? We in 2021.
What do you mean, what programs?
We expended. Hold on. In 2021.
What do you mean? What program? How much money is enough? When is it enough? You have the richest country in the world.
Dude, let him fucking talk. Holy shit.
For $300.
The way you guys think is just insane to me. Like,
no, you fucking dipshit. It's the way you think, okay? It's not even about how someone thinks. It's like, just the facts are on Sam Seder's side. He is spitting fact after fact after fact after fact, and you are ignoring all of it, and you are shooting back with incorrect information. And Jubilee's not fact-checking any of it.
Let me just finish this.
Right,
in 2021, we extended the child tax credit, which is basically a payment. $300 per social welfare.
Dude. I am going to need you to shut the fuck up, or I will go through the fucking screen and duct tape your fucking mouth shut. Holy shit.
Yes.
We cut child poverty in 1 year by 45%.
Child poverty in 2021 fell to 5.2%, the lowest rate on record according to Census Bureau measures. The child poverty rate was cut almost in half from the previous year's rate of 9.7%. The decline in child poverty was driven primarily by the expanded child tax credit included in the American Rescue Plan.
By 45%, but because no Republican would join the Democrats, and Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin voted against this provision in Bill back, I'm talking 2021. From 2021 to 2022, we cut child poverty in this country by 45%. Look at that.
He doesn't even fucking know! He's never heard of this! He's never heard of this! He hasn't heard this! Dude, I am losing my mind. My few remaining brain cells have drowned themselves in the puddle of tears that they have exuded hearing these people talk.
I feel like when I look at it,
I guarantee you, I will give you my phone number. You call me, and if I was wrong.
All right, we'll call.
I'll do it off camera. And you will see that we cut child poverty in a year by 45%.
I'll look into your claim.
All right, guys.
All right.
Yo. We're not cooked, man. We are burnt. We are fucking char. Okay, if there is a God out there, can you please hit the reset button? Okay, we clearly did not do good this time around, okay? Please give us let's start over.
No, we'll talk after.
My next claim is Trump's policies make the rich richer and the working class poorer.
Yes. I have nothing more to say to this other than unequivocally, yes. This is just American politics in general. I'm not going to say that the Democrats aren't also doing this. Sure, to a lesser extent, whatever, we can argue all day. But this is just American politics in general. Both parties are neoliberal. Neither party are doing the things that Sam and I would agree on that need to happen to help the American working class. Would a Democratic presidency be better? Yes, it would be better. Would it be what we need? No. My standpoint with the Democrats is like 2 or 3 steps forward, 2 or 3 steps back. With Republicans, it's like 20 steps back, when we need 50 steps forward. Neither of them are giving us what we need. One is worse, but we need something a lot better than what we've got.
Hunter Howell, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so do you mind if I ask what policies in specific are you referencing to?
Tax cuts for the rich. I think his idea of tariffs on countries and the way that he's talking about will make people poorer. I think all of the work that they're doing in terms of attacking the government agencies will make people poorer because when you get agencies that are supposed to protect us from corporate interests, they will externalize their costs, those corporations, instead of actually assuming themselves. So their profits are made on the backs of all of us, whether it's our health, our protection from consumer rights, worker rights. His anti-union policies will make us poorer.
So real quick, I'm going to touch on one of the things that you said. Now, there was a lot to unpack there, but
There's a lot of policies.
We'll start at the very beginning. You talked about taxes. Let's talk about, in his first term,
He's just, of course, this little nerd is just picking the one thing he thinks he can argue against as best he could. Because the point here isn't to actually address the things that Sam is talking about. The point is to try and win in this debate. Because the reality is, whoever this kid is not informed enough to really address the things Sam is discussing. So he picked the one thing, the Trump tax cuts, that he feels he can try to refute.
The Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. There are a couple things in that specific policy that actually do benefit the middle class and the lower class more than the top 1%. So you mentioned taxes, right? But in that, from the IRS data that came out, the middle class and lower class got affected. I think they ended up saving like 3 to 4% on their taxes, on their tax cuts, whereas the billionaires only saved 2%. So if we're talking an actual dollar amount, sure, the billionaires save more, but they also make a lot more, right? Also, the billionaires don't.
Americans making $50 to $100K saw their average federal tax liability drop by 13% from 2017 to 2018, while Americans making more than 1 million saw a 6% drop. Okay, let's once again ask our anti-woke oracle. Did the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act disproportionately help the wealthy? Oh my god, okay. I always try and remember to say concise answer when I'm talking to these things. I ain't reading all that. Concise answer, please. Yes, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act disproportionately helped the wealthy. The 1% got bigger tax cuts, averaging 51,000%, compared to the bottom 60% averaging under $900, and corporate tax breaks mostly benefited shareholders who are largely rich. These SAN fact checks are always nice because, they don't list a source, so you can't, independently review where they got this number from. The raw numbers and distribution suggest it leaned heavily toward the wealthy, especially over time. Whether that's disproportionate depends on your yardstick, okay? Absolute dollars saved or share of income affected. Critics say it widened inequality. The Gini coefficient rose slightly post-Tax Cuts and Jobs Act per World Bank data, while supporters say it spurred investment. This magical "it just spurred investment" is the funniest thing from conservatives. Both are true to an extent, but the scale tips toward the top. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act failed to deliver promised benefits. Benefits of the business tax changes in Trump's 2017 bill were costly and did not trickle down to workers and families. Yeah, man, this is definitely for the people, man, and not a tax break for the wealthy. The benefits of the cut to the corporate rate went exclusively to corporate owners and high-paid workers. Low-paid workers, 0%. Yeah, man. Definitely. I don't even know what to say, man. How so many of us are so fucking duped to think that these billionaires who run our fucking government now are the people who make their money by exploiting the working class's labor, by exploiting the global south, by exploiting the environment, by exploiting loopholes, by exploiting everything they possibly can to make themselves more money, are gonna work altruistically for the working class? You believe this? If this was a Twilight Zone episode, I would throw it out, throw the person who suggested it out of the writer's room for being too fucking ridiculous. The benefits were highly skewed towards the top. 90 to 91% got 80% of the benefits. Corporate investment immediately slowed following the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Failed to deliver promised economic boost. It just made the rich richer, man. Corporate tax collections remained flat despite rising profits. The law significantly reduced corporate tax collections, diverting resources from public investment to the pockets of wealthy shareholders, executives, and high-paid workers. The rich got fucking richer at our expense. And they're gonna keep doing it. They are so fucking happy. These absolute monsters, these freaks. A front row at Trump's second inauguration. You think these people care about you? You think these people give a fuck about you? When they get their money, they're just like, how do I invest this to help society? That's what Jeff Bezos thinks when he gets all of his money. He's like, how do I make the lives of the people in the world around me better? How do I improve the lives of my employees? That's what Jeff Bezos thinks. It's not, holy fuck, I want more fucking money. When they bust unions, it's because they genuinely think that having a union will hurt their employees. He really believes that. It's not that having a union will hurt their shareholder profits. They just can't pay their employees more, man. They just can't. They wish they could. Yes, if you think these people are on your side, if you think that Trump is on your fucking side, you are wrong. You are just wrong. You have been duped. I get a lot of comments saying, oh, you're elitist for saying Trump voters have been duped. You've been fucking duped by a massive propaganda machine owned by these people. These people control the levers of information now. Facebook, Twitter, the Washington Post, Google. Anyway.
Don't really care about an extra grand or two. In that specific policy, the child tax credit doubled from $1,000 per household to $2,000. No billionaire cares about an extra grand in their pocket, but I can guarantee you the working class does. So how would you rebuttal that?
I would say, in terms of the taxes themselves, well, the policies that Trump wants to pursue this time are to expand those taxes for wealthy folks. And over time,
I do see this comment. I see this on Twitter. Dude, they're already rich. Why would they want more money? Are you kidding me? Like, why are they that rich? It's because they're hoarding their fucking money. Of course they want more fucking money. There are about 1 million people who work for Amazon in the US. Jeff Bezos is worth $200 billion with his money increasing all the time. Liquidate $1 billion of that. You could do it. Give your employees a $1,000 bonus each for all their hard work. That's just his money. Yes, all these people could be paying their employees more. They could be getting them better benefits. They choose not to do it. They intentionally choose not to do it so that they can have more money for themselves that they're not using. Billionaires are our enemy, dude. They are the fucking enemy. God. Not immigrants, not trans people. The fucking billionaires, dude. The ultra wealthy, the capital owners.
What starts to happen is you have this wealth disparity, and as the wealth disparity increases, it becomes harder for working people essentially to keep up. Things become more expensive. You get inflationary pressures when you have people with more money. We have more and more billionaires than we did 4 years ago, and a large part of that was obviously COVID.
Okay, this video is already going to be hours and hours long. I'm going to try and play out the rest of the video and do minimal pausing.
But a large part of it is also money starts to accelerate. Once you, like you say, when a millionaire gets a tax cut for a couple of grand or 60 grand or $500,000 at the end of the day, they end up investing that and it ends up growing because they're not out there working for their money. Their money is just is doing all the work.
Okay, so yeah, I mean,
yeah, investing again is just like, again, keeping the money to themselves, not trickle. It never trickles down. This investing that they're doing, which I talked about earlier. Yeah, it's there, but it's another way to just accumulate more wealth for themselves. It does not trickle down.
I mean, I think we can agree with you on that when it comes to, billionaires and millionaires and there being a wealth gap in our country, right? I don't think Republicans or liberals would disagree on that, but I think where we will fundamentally disagree is under Trump, right? The stats show that take-home pay was higher for the middle class and the lower class. Inflation was down. They weren't paying as much on taxes.
Inflation was down, but wage growth was actually greater during the Biden administration.
Well, that's because due to COVID, when a lot of people lost jobs.
No. I mean, I'm talking in percentage comparison between those 4 years and these past 4 years, wage growth grew.
these things definitely need fact checks. Like, hire me to do your fact checks, Jubilee. I will gladly do it for free. Please.
Not from as a baseline on 2020, but I'm talking as a baseline from 2016.
Interesting. Okay, well then another point that I want to talk on with you real quick is you talked
Oh, so everything I said was wrong? Okay, gotta move on. Not
about slashing government agencies, for instance, the Department of Government Efficiency. I'm sure you've heard about that a lot in the news.
That's not a government agency. That's just some committee.
It actually an executive order was signed to make DOGE an official government agency as of less than a week ago. So yeah, It is an official government agency. So obviously we're talking about
I was gonna say you can't just do that. DOGE is not a full government agency. President Trump reorganized an existing group within the executive office of the president to form DOGE.
We want people to be able to afford a house. We want them to be able to afford to raise a family, right? As a young man myself, I want to be able to grow up in America and be able to afford food one day, right? I mean, I can't now, but continue that. And at the way things are going, it's unsustainable for people on the left, people on the right, people in the middle. So we have to come to a common ground on how to fix that. What's unsustainable? The fact that cost of living is increasing year after year.
What does DOGE do to inhibit cost of living?
Yeah, absolutely. So what DOGE is going to do, the Department of Government Efficiency, is slash a lot of the federal spending, right? So what happens when
what spending is going to get cut?
So I'm getting there. 1 second, sir. So what's going to happen is the Department of Government Efficiency is going to slash a lot of federal spending. What happens is the government...
Conservative nerds, like, are just the fucking, like, just the absolute worst, dude.
Republicans, Democrats alike spend a bunch of money that, excuse my language, but it's nonsense, right? They spend it out here, they spend it out there.
Be more specific. Here or there. Are you talking about cutting defense? Because they're not going to cut defense.
Well, for example,
wait a second.
No. Let me finish. Okay. $175 billion to Ukraine, first and foremost. That was a bunch of nonsense. So we're going to talk about that, but we also have a bunch of other things in the Defense Department, as well as a bunch of DEI departments.
Well, they're not touching, first of all, there are no DEI departments.
That's completely false.
Listen, defense spending is not going to be touched by DOGE.
Wrong.
And when you talk about the government, what's the biggest expenditure government has?
Our military and Social Security are our top two.
And Medicare and Medicaid, right? Now, they're not going to touch the military.
The Pentagon is looking for $50 billion in budget cuts for the next year, or roughly 8% of its budget. The Department of Defense is also cutting 5 to 8% of its workforce. So I am aware of this, and I'm definitely pro cutting the Pentagon's budget. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm worried that these $50 billion in cuts are going to be to things like healthcare for, military workers, or, some amount of that budget goes to things like disaster relief. And like $50 billion out of the US military budget is basically nothing. So it's just fucking dumb bullshit, like everything coming out of this stupid fucking initiative.
Are they going to cut Social Security?
You're asking me like I'm part of DOGE.
No. Well, you're telling me that DOGE is going to help everybody here, and I'm telling you if they cut Social Security, everybody in here is going to get hit. Because these folks are going to have to pay for their parents, because Social Security keeps 2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. So tell me what they're going to cut that's going to make it easier for Americans.
I already did.
What?
I told you the $175 billion that we've sent to Ukraine. We're no longer going to
So he's going to...
So Donald Trump has signed an executive order.
You've been voted out by the majority.
Thank you, sir.
And I don't want to speak on this too much, but I love how they always talk about, aid and like that conflict, but not aid that we're spending to, facilitate a genocide elsewhere. But I'll leave it at that. Did the guy try and jump back in again? Like, you were just there, buddy. Like, what the fuck?
Okay, so why did we see a
same guy again? There's 20 people in this room, dude.
Higher increase in the top 1% paying as part of federal income revenue under TCJA?
Why did we see a higher increase in the...
So under TCJA, it was passed 2017, right. It was effective 2018. 2018 and onward, we actually saw the top 1% pay more. They had more of a federal income tax burden. They paid 45% as opposed to Obama. During Obama's tax plan, they only paid about 40 to 42% of the federal
Because they got more money.
Right, okay, so they got more money.
They got richer.
But why are they paying... And why did they get richer? So this goes on inflation that...
I mean, that's my point, is the rich are getting richer.
Right, but why...
During the Obama admin, the share of federal income taxes paid by the top 1% ranged from 35 to 39.5%. During the first term of the Trump admin, the share paid by the top 1% ranged from 39% to nearly 46%. Source IRS, the tax foundation. So now they're sourcing their shit. Look, the top 1% paying a higher share in taxes, it reflects their higher incomes, their larger incomes. Look, this is how you can mislead with statistics. This seems to sort of imply that, and what he's trying to imply is that, like, the wealthy were taxed more under Trump. Yes, they did pay a higher share of total federal income taxes, but one, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act disproportionately benefited these high earners. Since lower income groups paid less, the top 1% ended up covering a larger percentage of the remaining tax revenue. Under this tax plan, the wealthiest Americans saw their incomes rise significantly, so they earned a larger share of the total income. So yes, that ended up with them paying a higher share of total taxes. And this statistic does not account for corporate tax rates being slashed. So this doesn't mean they were taxed more. It's a reflection of income distribution and demonstrates how these tax cuts worked in their favor. This makes it sound like the opposite. Typical fucking Jubilee.
Why would you say that they're getting richer? But you mentioned inflation?
No, they're not. Well, I mean, I think that the inflation, to the extent that there was money that wasn't a function of like logistics and other problems that we had during COVID, yeah, the rich got richer. Not all inflation is a function of monetary inflation.
That's true, but when we look at COVID and we can see that they increased the money supply by 40%, they added $6 trillion, and you have a Federal Reserve System that's doing quantitative easing and pumping stimulus into the economy, you can attribute that to left-wing policy. The entire Federal Reserve System is Keynesian economics. Those are very left-wing.
Well, I can tell you this, inflation went up in Western European countries.
The Federal Reserve ebbs and flows between monetarism and Keynesian economics. Monetarists believe in controlling the supply of money that flows into the economy while allowing the rest of the market to fix itself. Keynesian economists believe that a troubled economy continues in a downward spiral unless an intervention drives consumers to buy more goods and services. Source Investopedia. Why are some of these given a source?
In Western European countries, the same rates
that had stimulus.
No, they didn't have the same level of stimulus that we did. No, they did.
They absolutely did. You can look at Japan. Yeah, I hear this topic all the time from the Democrats. They say, oh, inflation was global. Not true. China never went above 3% inflation during all of COVID. And they were actually, they were under deflationary pressures. Japan, which is part of the G7, was also never had deflationary pressures. They never had inflation increase. The only countries that had inflation increase. I'm talking in
Western Europe. You could see inflation. Well, you could, England, Germany, Italy, France. They didn't stimulate as much as we did. It wasn't monetary inflation. If you look at
in a study of advanced economics, the inflation rate at least doubled from early 2020 to early 2022 in 37 of 44 countries. In 16 countries, the inflation rates quadrupled. Source Pew Research Center, OECD. Why are they...
Get the cost of goods and logistics got screwed up because of COVID.
So let's look at the reason. All international trade, because we're the world reserve currency, is done in U.S. dollars.
See, this is how they should have been doing this whole video. I don't know why they're doing this now, but they should be dropping fact checks every fucking second. China's annual inflation rate has been below 3% since May 2020. Japan suffered from economic stagnation from the 1990s through 2021, resulting in deflation. It is often called Japan's lost decades.
Because we experienced it, domestic inflation was high.
So you're saying our inflation caused higher inflation in Europe?
Absolutely, because
that's not what economists say.
Well, you can look at the facts. International trade is we have dollar-denominated international trade. All international trade is that's why we're the world reserve currency. You guys claim that the U.S. recovered faster than anybody else. It's like, well,
it did.
It's because we have a privilege of being the world reserve currency and we export our inflation. Like the strength.
We export our inflation.
Let me explain that. Let me explain that the U.S. dollar is the most safe asset in the world. In times of great crisis and great volatility, like COVID crisis, everybody turns to the dollar. Sure. Many currencies are tied to the dollar. So it's like when you
the euro is not tied to the dollar.
The euro is not, but international trade. So if the euro actually crashed against the dollar during COVID. The euro used to be above the dollar.
I'm unclear what your point is.
My point is that the inflation is caused.
Am I the only one who thinks this guy looks like Mr. Beast? I keep glancing over and I just see Mr. Beast.
By left-wing policies.
So inflation was caused by, you're saying...
supply shock and pumping trillions of dollars into the economy.
Well, first of all, you understand that
Again, it's just I don't even want to quote economists because they're often biased toward capitalism. But what he is saying is not the consensus of economists. It's certainly a right-wing talking point, but it is not based on any sort of reality or, again, what even economists are saying.
The Federal Reserve is not Biden didn't have control of the Federal Reserve.
Absolutely not, but the entire Federal Reserve system is left-wing in economic theory. That's the Keynesian economics. It's interventionist economics.
So you're saying that the
more you
quantitative
stimulate,
easing,
the more you stimulate. Yeah.
why didn't we get it through QE?
We do get it through
Why
QE.
didn't we get inflation during the Obama years?
We did get inflation.
We didn't get
the wealth gap that you guys attribute. We absolutely did.
What numbers of inflation did we get during the Obama years that were outside of?
From 2008 to 2014, the Federal Reserve did quantitative easing, buying up treasuries to increase the money supply.
Like the 2% sort of Fed target.
I don't think it was as high as COVID. COVID hit us
No,
at 9%.
it wasn't even remotely
right,
close.
but when we look at the effects of compounding inflation.
QE.
For most of the Obama administration, consumer price inflation hovered around or under 2%. In summer 2011, annual consumer price inflation briefly rose to 3.8%, driven by higher food and energy prices. By spring 2012, inflation was back down below 2%.
1, 2, and 3 all happened during the Obama years. If your theory was correct, we would have had rampant inflation. In fact, Glenn Beck was talking about how we were going to turn into Weimar Germany, and none of that happened. None of it. And so if you look at what's happening at Western Europe, well, no, listen.
We didn't close down the economy. The Biden administration closed down the economy.
I understand.
No, that was not the entire
excuse
world.
Me, the Biden administration?
Yes, they forced mask mandates. They supported Democrats.
Wait.
They supported Democrat
Do you
states.
not remember who was president in the last?
Again. The entire foundation of conservatism is to just be wrong about everything. I cannot fucking believe this shit, dude.
In the first year of COVID?
Yeah, it was Trump. I'm not saying Trump had a role in this, but I'm saying.
Well, wait a second. By the time in 2021, the economy was opening back up.
Yes, the economy.
All of what you're talking about.
No thanks to the Democrats.
Well, okay,
the Democrats wanted to keep it closed.
Okay, you can talk about hypothetically what the Democrats want, but
it's not hypothetically. We can look at mask. We can look at their mandates. We can look at them closing.
Mask mandates. Mask mandates. This motherfucker's talking about mask mandates. What the fuck?
2020, March of 2020.
God.
Well, okay.
Donald Trump was president.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
How's it going, sir?
Good. How you doing, Sam?
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
When you're talking about inflation in 2021.
Look, I'll say this again. I don't want to throw rocks in glass houses. Okay, I should not be commenting on other people's appearance. 1, it's mean. 2, I know I'm not okay. I'm not Hassan. All right, I get it. But man, shave it off. Like Cooper Cup makes it work, but I don't know. Maybe it's the way he styles it. Maybe he needs a beard comb. It looks like he shaves like a reverse goatee.
Janet Yellen said it would be transitory, and then again in 2022 she said it would be transitory, and it turned out to not be transitory. And then one major thing happened in 2022. I think we all know what that was. That was the war in Ukraine. And I believe, and I can explain, that the war in Ukraine was explicitly caused by Joe Biden's bad foreign policy, and that shot inflation up from...
Every time someone says something stupid, this guy's just here going like, you know, a mid-2000s Halo machinima. It's a very specific niche subgenre of entertainment, but you know what I'm talking about? Blah, blah, blah. This is how Halo machinima thinks people talk. Yeah, man, I think that we should go over there and do this thing.
Like, there was already pretty bad inflation in early 2022 and late 2021, but it shot it up from the low kind of margins in like 3 or 4% all the way to 9% in 2022 of July at the peak.
Inflation is now down around 2%, around where...
The war in Ukraine increased global inflation because Russia and Ukraine are both major exporters of commodities like wheat, fertilizer, and oil and gas.
In between 2.5
Yeah, where they're looking to get it. And we have really close to record unemployment that we've had over the past 4 years. But how does this have to do with Trump's policies not making the richer and the rest of us poor?
Okay, so what I was just explaining with...
I mean, look, you can kind of see it, right? You can kind of see what I'm talking about. Welcome to Seattle, by the way, Cooper. He's the white Cooper Cup, folks.
I was going to get into oil prices. So oil prices skyrocketed in 2022 because in 2021, when Biden got into office, he shut down our Keystone pipeline, shut down all new oil and gas leases in America. Then he took the sanctions off.
We are producing right now more oil in this country than we ever have in the history of any country everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
President Biden revoked a Keystone XL permit when he took office, which shut the project down. He implemented a 60-day suspension of leasing and drilling permits for oil and gas on federal property.
On top of the fact that Biden is credited by oil traders, and this isn't something that I, am terribly excited about.
What did he just do
but
on the East Coast?
apparently,
What did he just sign?
what Biden did during the past 4 years is he used the strategic oil reserve to drive down oil prices and essentially broke and it's filled back up. And he filled it back up, and he broke the negotiating power and the.
According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the U.S. is producing more crude oil than any country ever has. In 2023, the U.S. produced approximately 3 million more barrels of oil per day than Saudi Arabia.
The price-setting power by oil countries across the world. Really? I mean, oil traders hail him for doing this, and frankly, I don't think it's that impressive. But let's talk about what Trump's policies are.
We only have a little bit of time, but I was getting to that. So oil prices, in 2021, Biden took all the sanctions off of the pipeline in Russia, and then the pipeline in Russia ran straight through Ukraine originally, and he knew that if he invaded Ukraine, Ukraine would destroy the pipeline, and his economic success would be destroyed in Russia. And then when the sanctions,
Biden or
Putin knew that would occur in Russia if the sanctions were taken off of that pipeline. And Biden took all the sanctions off of Nord Stream 2 in Russia, like the second week he was in office. And then a year later, Putin invades Ukraine. Sanctions happen all over the world, and inflation rises within 6 months all the way up to 9%. Trump is going to do great things with oil and let us drill, and what that actually does for the economy.
Like I say, we are producing more oil in this country than any country in the history of the world.
What executive order did Biden just sign to have to do with offshore drilling in the East Coast?
He stopped it.
Yeah. Really dumb idea. We're about to begin a new.
So you want to go beyond even the record-breaking thing?
Yes.
Are you aware of climate?
And that lowers inflation.
We're going to sell this oil. We don't use the oil. We sell it. We sell it.
Getting money in the pockets of American citizens.
We sell it. Well, how is that oil getting to the pocket?
Yo! We're so cucked by the billionaire class. I cannot believe it. I am utterly speechless, man. Utterly speechless.
Pocket of American citizens.
Because when you lower the prices of oil, that lowers the prices of all products.
I understand that the inflationary prices effect of energy. But the fact of the matter is, they're just going to sell it.
Yes.
We're going to sell it.
Yeah, so
you want to produce even more oil than we are now.
Yes.
And you don't think climate change is going to impact... No. You don't believe in climate change?
Well, that's a whole other discussion, but no.
Well, I mean, it's sort of the same discussion.
Yeah, no, I believe that climate change is, well, there's obviously an element of climate change that is partially true, but lowering or raising man-made raising temperatures by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius in the next 150 years isn't necessarily a detriment to society. Human beings.
You don't think so?
No, human beings are very good at innovation, and we can build seawalls, and we can create carbon technology.
What kind of seawall are you going to build for Miami? What are you going to do about when we don't?
I'm talking about the economy right now, which if we get back on topic.
All right, guys. Sorry, time's up. I let you go.
No problem.
This is another conservative, magic wand hand wave. Obviously, some conservatives are like, no, anthropogenic climate change is not real. The other conservatives who are like, yeah, there are some conservatives who are like, yeah, it is real, but you know what? We will find the technology to fix it. I know we will. Of course we will. Well, what if we fucking don't? Why don't we invest in green energy? If you believe climate change is real, instead of just, I don't know, assuming we will eventually come up with a technology that somehow mitigates it for humanity and just the fucking ecological outlook of this fucking planet, maybe we should just use green energy. I'm like the one leftist who is vehemently pro-nuclear. The answer to anthropogenic climate change is nuclear energy, not a magic future solution that we have no fucking idea exists. We're gonna build seawalls. What are you talking about, man? Believe it or not, extinction events and ecological collapse matter too. Maybe we just shouldn't destroy the fucking climate with fossil fuels. You believe that's happening? Why? God. Sam will now choose a conservative to debate for 10 minutes on a claim of their choosing. I wonder if he's going to pick Jorge. So, a ton of these people did not say anything. Jubilee should, regulate it. So if you talked once, you can't go again. And try and get it so other people can have a chance. I don't know. This format's kind of fun, but it's also kind of dumb and poorly executed.
I choose Ben because he let me lecture him about Social Security.
My claim is that abortion is immoral and should not be legal.
I hate to say it, but that's kind of a boring question, in my opinion. This video is already very long. I think I'm going to skip these last 10 minutes. If I get one comment saying, Dima, I want you to watch those last 10 minutes, I will record it and I will make it an unlisted video just for you. But for now, I think we're going to end it here. I'll at least see Sam's, like, outro, maybe. Yeah. But I really don't care about this topic. I mean, I do, but, like, it's 1 a.m. for me and I got shit to do in the morning.
I hate to do it, but I gotta do it. I'm sorry, that's time.
Okay. Hey.
I'm glad I was here. It was interesting. I know my questions were more sort of policy oriented, I think, than maybe folks anticipated here. And I was a little bit surprised that there wasn't many people here who could address the policies. They were very, very sure of themselves as to why they voted for Trump, but a lot of it was sort of not material in any way.
So there was
putting it in the mildest of terms, Uncle Sam. Yes.
stuff that conservatives were saying today that I fundamentally disagreed with my entire heart, but at the end of the day, we're still part of the conservative movement. So I think there are people that I disagreed with, or people that I completely did agree with, but the cool thing about this new conservative movement and the people here today is it's people from all different walks of life sharing their perspective.
I don't think Sam had any, like, at least when I was speaking to him, I don't think Sam really had great responses because
Dude, what? One, this is just brown Mr. Beast. I'm sorry, okay? Two, like, you didn't know anything he was fucking talking about, man. Christ.
reality is not on his side. I don't think social.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Jesus Christ.
Works. I think social programs can be good up to a certain extent, but we are very socialist as a nation, and
we are the United States of America is very socialist as a nation. I wish we lived in this fantastical dream world conservatives seem to think we live in, man. We are very socialist as a nation, is a thing an adult human voter just said. America is too socialist? What the fuck? A different fucking, I don't even know, we're too similar if I'm saying it's a different universe, man. It's like we're a million multiverses away. I don't know how to fucking put it.
yeah, I mean, I'll say it again. Socialism does not work. Sorry. Wish it did.
I think debate is healthy, and I think it helps viewers sort of clarify why certain people support certain things, and it gives an opportunity, I think, to both have fun and drama and maybe learn some stuff. So
Sam Seder might be the greatest person who's ever lived. I'm gonna say it. The right moral compass. He's a good person. He's a nice person. He's an incredibly smart person. We're lucky to have him in the progressive movement. I wish he was way bigger than he is. I say that as someone who doesn't watch the Majority Report very often, but I cannot recommend Sam Seder enough, the work that they're doing at the Majority Report along with Emma Vigeland. And that's where I want to leave it. Just please, Sam Seder, don't stop. Never quit what you're doing. You are a great person, and the world is very lucky to have you, Sam. I highly recommend everyone check out Sam Seder's work. Their YouTube channel is called The Majority Report. I'm going to put it in the description. If you made it all the way here, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.